Order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we got a big crowd. On behalf of the Planning Commission meeting, I'd like to welcome you to our meeting for August 11, 2026. For those of you that have not been with us before, our standard operating procedure is go through some administrative matters. Then for our applications, we look to our city consultants, our planner and our engineer to give us the background on the applications. Look to the applicant for their input, and the commission will ask questions along the way, and then the commission will deliberate and make a decision. And that's the process. Our first item is a review of the Planning Commission meeting minutes for our last meeting that was held on July 14, 2026. And so I'd look to the commission for any comments or motion?
I'd like to move that we adopt the minutes as submitted of such meeting.
Second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Our first item is the Planning Commission will consider the request of the property owner at 355 Martell Drive for approval to install a pool and a fence in the side yard. And this item was in front of us last month, and there was some information that we needed to review and the applicant needed to review, and so it was tabled then to gather that information, and we're back again.
We are indeed.
Jill.
Good afternoon, Jill Boehm with Giffords Webster, city's planning consultant. As you indicated, this project was before you a month ago, which honestly does not seem like it was a month ago. It seems like it was just like last week. This month is, summer's flying by. As you'll recall, this project included a swimming pool and a pool fence. I'll relocate you here. The site is kind of an awkward shape there, but off of Martell, in the A3 zoning district. See that, and then we can see a little bit more closely. So what came about at our last meeting were several questions about some mechanical equipment that's located there at the end of the driveway, roughly in the middle of the yard, and some concerns about fencing and screening and landscape screening. So after a site visit on site, administration and the applicant, the homeowner's representative, there was some discussion and history about the mechanical equipment and this fence, and what has been recommended and what is being proposed now by the applicant is to remove that existing fencing that was there that we talked about last month, and then put this fencing so that it goes around that mechanical area, which still is in this location. So if you recall last time, I think we had the fencing here and then there was this other fence here. So now it ties together and goes around that area, and so you can see that a little bit more closely. So we still have the request, which is this side yard fence over there, and then the other one over on the other side of the bank. And let's see. So we do have a lot of photos as well, which may be helpful. I think those were in the packet, but it's nice to see them on the big screen. And then this is the view of the proposed screening. Something really big is going on. Everybody's hearing about it at the same time. So this is a view from the west side property line with the proposed new arborvitae and hydrangea shrubbery, and that's what it looks like today. So some additional screening. That's what it looks like today, and then a little view of the backyards and things. We have quite a few images. But I think what's helpful then is to see the screening plan, which shows the arborvitae that would be between the mechanical equipment and the driveway to kind of block that view. And then some additional arborvitae, again, over here to help block that view from the neighboring properties, and then some additional shrubbery and grass. And this is the other side on the east. So additional arborvitae. There is some existing screening there, and then installing that tree. I think that is all for planning. I think we still have some engineering. No of that. Okay, so I'll just go back to maybe. Well, I'll go back to the full one. Sorry to go back so much. But I think that's helpful. Maybe this one. Just again to remind you. Now there was an existing fence, and there's been discussions with the homeowner and tying in with the adjacent property owner fencing. We can talk to the applicant about their progress on that as well. But other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jill?
The planned screening is puts everything in compliance from your opinion?
Yes, it does seem to screen, let's see, I think it would be looking at, so sort of like this area over on the side. There we go. Which would be quite a screen there of arborvitae that would block the fence and the mechanical equipment, which will be behind the fence. And that fence then will serve as the pool fence as well as just the screening there.
And to Commissioner's question, so now under our ordinance, we've got to have 100% coverage after 6 months. So we change our ordinance, and so when there's screening like this, now it requires absolute coverage.
Anything else for me?
Oh,
Okay,
great, thank you.
great.
Nothing. Okay.
Good afternoon, Alan Izember, Noack and Frost Engineers. I also have the owner, John Furtz, in the audience, if any questions come up for him. But want to thank everybody for the time this afternoon and appreciate the presentation from the city staff. I think you've done a very good job highlighting kind of the changes that we've made since the last time we were here last month. The big ones being the screening and this gate being turned to the side here to allow for that screening along the frontage and along this side. That blends in with that existing screening. We've also talked about that existing non-conforming fence that was in this area, the vinyl fence that was kind of thrown around back and forth a little bit. That will be removed and replaced with the aluminum fence to be screened. We had the comment about the letter for the replacement of the fences. The owner has provided a letter signed that says that if any of the neighboring properties do come out of compliance because if he comes out of compliance because the neighbor removes their fence based on their pool being filled in or them, doing something different and they take down their fence, that he will provide a fence for his yard to meet that compliance for his pool code, for his property. So I know that's a little wordy, but just want to make sure that we're all clear that if the neighbor still has a pool, they are still required to have their fence be in place. Our owner has said that if their pool comes out of compliance, they will take care of that for their property, not for the neighboring property.
Well, but that's a little bit different than the letter that Mr. First wrote on, dated August 11, where he qualifies his commitment to replace the fence if the neighbor's fence comes out. It's a little ambiguous to me about the requirement. I mean, fundamentally, the fences that he's tied into aren't his fences. So if those fences come out for any reason, I would think that he's got to take affirmative steps to enclose his property, particularly the pool. So I assume you've seen this letter that he's
I
submitted.
have, yes.
So what you just said really doesn't capture what he's saying in this letter.
I think the point of the letter is that if his pool comes out of compliance based on any actions from his doing or his neighbors doing that don't require their fence, like, so, technically if they remove their fence and they have a pool, they're required to put their fence back up, right, to meet their pool code. So that shouldn't be the responsibility of our owner to take that on.
No, of
But-
course not. I mean, it's the neighbor's pool, the neighbor's fence requirements. His pool, his fence requirements.
Correct.
The issue is, presently, he's tying into the neighbor's fence. So if the neighbor, for whatever reason, removes its fence, he's obligated to take affirmative steps to properly enclose his property, whatever the reasons are, that the neighbor moves, removes, modifies its own fence. Is that a problem?
No, I don't think that's a problem. I think you would agree to that.
Well, that's not what you said in
That's
your
not
letter.
what this, I agree with you,
I,
Commissioner.
I'm representing the.
Wait a second. I guess are we gonna start entertaining
No,
now?
I just want to clarify what this letter means.
So could you let us know who you are?
Yes, I'm Jessica Stencil, I'm representative of the First.
I'm sorry, I didn't
I'm
get you.
Jessica Stencil, I represent the First.
Okay.
I represent them as well as the real estate transactions.
Are you a landscaper or?
No, I'm their realtor. But
You're a
I-
realtor?
Yes,
Okay.
but I've helped them with this project from start to finish. And I just want to be clear that the reason why the two neighbors have fences is because they both have pools. And so I think the concern is that they have to have those fences because they have pools. And so what he's trying to do, he's obviously trying to have a pool and a fence to make sure it's conforming for you guys. The issue is that one of the neighbors was thinking about filling in their pool, and then of course they don't need a fence, right? If you fill in your pool, there's no need for a fence technically. But if they remove their fence, that's not compliant with the city, and so it shouldn't be his obligation to then provide a brand new fence just because they want a new fence.
Let me stop you there. So, if one of the neighbors chooses to fill in their pool, or they could simply decide that they just want the fence just around the perimeter of their pool, right? So, that doesn't change, and I don't want to speak for these two commissioners, but that does not change Mr. First's obligation
They would be,
to install a brand-new fence.
that's correct.
And if it doesn't conform with this plan,
Correct.
you'd have to come back in front of the city.
Yes, correct. And that is not the argument. The argument is that if they wanted to put a fence around just their pool, then he would have to he would have to provide a brand new fence. They're saying they can't just say, we're getting rid of our fence, even though we have a pool, and you have to put your fence up. That is the only issue.
No, they-
So I'm gonna defer to you guys.
Yeah, no, the city's not gonna agree to that.
Right, exactly. That's the only, that was it.
So-
Just-
Yeah, I think we all agree. I just want to make sure that,
That's not what you just said.
So-
The letter is qualified
So-
in a lot of different
Yeah,
ways
well-
that trouble me.
So I heard what was well said. Why don't you explain? your-
I just feel like, the suggested language, I think the mayor suggested in her motion at the last meeting was that if they're unable to, if the neighbors take their fence down for any reason, or they're unable to enter into an agreement with the neighbors to use their fence, that they would put up their own fence that's compliant around their pool. And I don't think this really says that. I think it's very qualified, and it's a little bit, as
So we have two attorneys here. I'd like to hear between the two of you guys.
No, I agree with the Commissioner here, that, I think I understand, Mr. First, what you're saying is, you don't wanna necessarily have to replace your neighbor's fence if they decide, we want a new fence. That's not what is at issue here. What's at issue is your obligation to safely close your pool with a fence. Right now, you're utilizing your neighbor's fence to accomplish that. No problem. But if and or when your neighbor decides, for whatever reason, to remove its fence, which it has the right to do, you gotta bring your pool into compliance. It's pretty simple. Okay, well, that's not what your letter says.
So does that letter need to then be modified and
I would
re-signed?
just disregard the letter.
Okay, disregard the letter?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you guys will, with any motion, you'll craft the language to do that. Okay. All right.
Okay. And then the fourth thing that came up was the noise level of that generator. So that was tested with city staff on site. 65 decibels at the property line is the allowable, and it tested at 56 decibels. So we are good to go on that generator. And just to kind of preemptively get ahead of that question, so if a pool filter was added to that, the question's going to be, oh, how much noise does that add? So a typical pool filter runs at about 55 decibels. But you don't take those noises and add them together. It's not 110 decibels when you go to the property line. It's actually a logarithmic relationship. So I know more about sound than I ever wanted to now. But two machines running at 55 decibels would only produce a 59 decibel level at that property line. Even if there were four machines running at 55 decibels, it would only be a 62 decibel level. So even if they were to put in three pool filters, which they don't plan on doing here, it would still be in compliance.
Okay.
Mr. City Manager, is that consistent with what you wrote in your memo?
Yes, it was, I personally went to the edge of the property there where it says existing cedar with we actually have a decibel meter, and it was 56. You could put one on your phone too, so I put one on my phone, it was 57 on my phone, but the calibrated one, but
With both of the devices running?
well, I thought about that, so I read the ordinance, and the ordinance does not distinguish that, so I didn't push that issue because the ordinance language just says each item.
So you've not tested both together, but you have?
No.
I ran an analysis on what it would be if the two were running together. The pool filter has not been installed yet because the pool is not.
Oh, so this is just hypothetical?
Hypotheticals.
You haven't-
Correct.
Other,
Listening to that generator too, there was some comment that I put it in there, and I put this oversized loud generator. It was installed in 2015. I thought it was closer than that, but it was actually installed in 2015.
other questions?
Are these your pictures?
Some of them. Oh, yeah, from the neighboring sites.
Well, I
Is
was just
that-
wondering what the significance was of the picture from 393.
Is that the one that's got the gate all the
Yeah.
way across the front?
Yeah.
That would be considered a front yard fence, correct?
Is that, why are they here?
They're there just to show that there's other neighbors that have the same condition, but we've gotten past that issue, I think, now that we've turned the gate and screened it, so.
So,
I
just,
was just gonna say, that wasn't part of the motion or the discussion, but I know that the planning commission has a lot of times told people to move the gate. So when you move the gate, you can screen the front of it. So I try to get ahead of, try to help this gentleman out. So that's why it's turned.
some of these buildings, these houses, and the landscaping has been there for 40-plus years, so it's been there for a long time. And our ordinance has changed over the years.
Totally understandable.
And when it comes to plastic fences, that was never an option, so.
Yep, that's why we've removed that existing vinyl, turned the gate, so now it's fully screened. I don't think any of the neighbor pictures have to come into any of the argument here.
So I have a question. Planner mentioned that you guys discussed this with the neighbors. Did you guys do that?
We took a recommendation from city staff that fence be 4 feet off of the property line now. Originally, when we came in, we had this fence running up the property line and tying back in. So there's existing screening, cedars all along the edge of the property here. So we actually came 4 feet off of that. Hold on. 4 feet off that property line, came in, and then we stopped that fence at the corner within 4 inches of the corner post, which meets the pool requirement. So that corner stays on our property line, and then it comes over, and this whole thing is screened by the existing.
So my question though was,
I said that they were working with the neighbor and, property owners on the fence.
right, that's what I meant.
That's
So,
yeah.
so you were working with the neighbors, so you had dialogue with them?
Correct,
I mean,
yeah.
it's always a good thing.
Yeah.
When neighbors show up
For sure.
they have dialogue with the neighbors. So
Yeah.
you guys did that?
Yeah, and there was letters from the neighbors to the south that were included as part of the ZBA packet. I don't know if they made it into your guys' packet or not.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Okay.
I have a couple.
Oh,
How many kilowatts is the generator?
It's a 35 KVA generator,
Is it propane or natural gas?
natural gas.
Thank you.
did you,
Yeah, I had a couple.
go ahead.
Okay.
I thought you were done.
I didn't start.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I have just a couple of things. The fence that's going to the south there, up off the house, and then coming
This
up.
one here.
No, go to the other one.
This one.
Oh, so you have, that's in the backyard, correct?
This is technically in the
Side
rear.
yard.
Where is that picture? It was color coded on this one photo. There you go. Yeah, so that's all technically the side yard, because of the way the ordinance is defined is that the back corner of the house defines the rear yard. So I
Yes.
think if we were looking at this normally, like this would be considered a rear yard in most scenarios, but this is all side yard fence.
So why do you need the fence up by the south of the pool to be up front, so that the homeowner can't see it, but there's people going down the street can see it?
I think we've done an effective job of screening it so that no one coming down the street can see it. So, and it's also helping with the noise now that it's screened. It's helping with any generator noise that's being produced.
Okay, and then also if you normally, unless I missed it, which I apologize, normally we have what type of fence is going in here? I don't see any type of fence. We don't even know what type of fence is going in.
Do you have the full plan set?
Normally we have like a
Yeah, it's a
size and,
4-foot aluminum, typical aluminum fence with posts in it. Do you guys have the full plan set? If not, I brought a flash drive.
did I miss it?
I think it was written in.
I was gonna say, it should be,
There
I think
wasn't
it's
an
on
illustration.
C5
Yeah,
of the
normally
plan set.
We
Yeah,
haven't,
no, that's certainly a fair question.
well,
I mean, that's,
the only reason I asked that question is, if anybody, I don't know if people had time to go through, to look at this, but there is a fence, well, this green fence is up, like C6.
In the bottom right corner, there's a kind of the brochure of what that fence will look like.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then, in the motion, that we talked about in the minutes, it talks about the attorney had suggested that using a neighbor's fence by agreement is permissible, but that such an agreement should be documented and should include an obligation on the applicant to replace the fence segment if the neighbor's fence is removed. Did we get that from the neighbors?
I think that's what we discussed with the letter, correct?
Well, we're getting rid of the letter, so did he, the letter doesn't have anything to do about talking to the neighbors and tying into their fence?
Okay. Talking to the neighbors, I guess we would have to clarify how that could be written into the motion. Now, as far as the letter goes, I think our owner would totally agree that if their fence comes out of compliance for their pool, that they would replace it.
But the attorney, unless I say this wrong, Mark, but it says that if you are going to tie into the neighbor's fence, you have to get their approval.
We are no longer tying into the fence.
Yeah,
We are 4 inches away from the neighbor's fence.
it's.
So there's
it's
no
not
connection.
tied.
Oh, so it's not gonna tie in, so you didn't talk to the neighbors? Okay.
No.
wait a second.
On that side,
Wait,
there's,
I asked if you talked to the neighbor.
we said there was letters provided in the ZBA packet.
So you didn't talk to the neighbors?
The neighbors wrote the letters that were provided in the ZBA packet, yes.
Amy, do you have those? Do you know about those?
There were letters in the ZBA packet, yes.
Oh, why would we not get some?
I didn't write a letter, and it's not in the ZBA package.
Well, wait a second.
All right. Okay. So, all right, we'll get to that in just a minute. So I do have, I received a, email as well as Amy that, we got from another neighbor. The reason why I talk about the fence is because there is what looks like kind of a temporary fence up there right now. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct. It's their landscaping boxes are inside of that. I think that came up at the last meeting too, what was in those boxes. So it's landscaping material, so it's just kind of a barrier so that any landscaping that's going on, that those materials aren't disappearing. So that temporary fence will come down when the new fence goes in.
Why do you need a temporary fence up now if there's no pool there?
It's to make sure that nobody takes any of the things that are in that landscaping box.
The landscaping box is way on the other side of the,
There's two that are inside near the generator right now.
and this fence is on the other side of the house. So are you saying?
That's on I believe the fence you're talking about it's over here right now, correct? The temporary fence
No, I'm talking about over there, on the other side.
over here?
Yeah, it's right here.
I can't see it.
Oh. Yeah. There's a temporary fence that's up there now.
Gotcha. John, is that for the dog?
So the neighbor
Is that for the
was,
dog,
Dog,
the temporary?
it's really more for my grandkids, not getting to the pond. Pond's just as deep as the pool, so.
well, are your grandkids playing in the backyard? Because that,
Yeah, kids do. They play
Yeah.
all over the house.
yeah.
They play outside. I try and keep them away. But if we're talking about getting rid of that in this meeting, that's what we're talking about.
I just,
So hopefully I'm not gonna have to do that, to make sure my kids and any other kids in the neighborhood are safe.
okay, there was a letter from this homeowner that lives on Martel. They are not existing and they don't have the fences around it. But just asking that the commission, we require the homeowner to be in keeping with the neighborhood. And that everything is fully screened if the fencing is approved in the front yards. And then also just to send over those pictures.
And again, of course, we're going to do that. That's what we've shown here on the
But
design here. There's going to be screening on all the fences going in.
Dave, do we allow temporary fences?
No, and we can ask them to remove that. I mean, he brings up a point about the depth of that pond. I was there, it has to be over 11 inches to have a fence, but I don't know it's that deep.
It's over 11 inches, it was pre-existing.
Well, that's not good, so, so I would recommend if, they are gonna get this fence, and if it does get approved, that there is a temporary fence around that until they get this thing done.
There is none, or there is?
I would recommend, if it's over 11 inches, which I couldn't tell when I was there, then they have a temporary fence remain until they get this, fence installed, however long that takes, if it's approved.
I guess however long that takes, that could be a year, and then the neighbors are looking at ugly fences, but I would say there would have to be a time limit on that.
That's fine.
I think we'd be open to that. Sure.
So what kind of time, so that we can sort of solve these, what kind of timeline, if you're gonna make a motion, at some point, is there gonna be is there a timeline that's acceptable? Maybe let's just set that out right now.
I mean, I wouldn't want them to go to Florida and leave it and have it for the winter and not come back until the spring and.
So how tall is that fence?
That temporary? It looks like it's about 3.5, 4 feet. Pretty similar to what the new fence would be.
So when I drove by it, I guess I wasn't looking at that side, so it just seems like, yeah, we should screen this. Or is it gonna, is this gonna get removed?
It would get removed when the permanent, if the permanent fence were approved, it would get removed.
Okay, because I think that's a fair request. If there's a fence there, we should screen it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, all right.
I'm kind of confused. Are you no longer tying into any neighboring fences at all?
Correct.
So do we need the letter then at all, if it doesn't apply?
I was gonna ask the city attorney the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. The fact is they're not physically tying into the neighbor's fence. They're bringing their proposed fence within 4 inches or the width of the rail requirements, so it will comply, but it's not actually attaching to the neighbor's fence. So you do need the letter, because if the neighbor takes their fence down, and, you know, doesn't have a pool anymore or whatever, reconfigures their fence, the neighbor would be required to enclose his fence to comply with the ordinance.
Alternatively, Alice, I think what we can do is when you make a motion, so the approval of this will continue based on the expectation that that fence is there, and if any of the fences are removed, their pool is no longer compliant. So it would be a motion to say, we approve this, conditioned on the understanding that if any of the perimeter fences are removed, the applicant is required to immediately replace it, or you'd almost have to put in, I guess it gets complicated. If someone were to remove one of those fences, you wouldn't necessarily be able to immediately replace it. In fact, he might have to come back in front of the city commission, in front of the planning commission, because part of it is in the side yard, and you'll have an open pool. So we're relying on fences. I thought there was an agreement, but there's no agreement. That's why I asked you if you'd talked with the neighbors. So if we're relying on the fences, and the fences are removed, at least the fence on the north side, then that would make the pool non-compliant with the state statute that requires a fence around a pool. And so I guess we'll just have to put that in the motion, that they would have to meet, because the neighbors got no obligation to notice them that they're removing the fence, right? They could just take the fence down, and all of a sudden, the fence is down, you've got a pool that's exposed.
What if they were to refrain from pool use until an approved fence was installed?
Well, in Tom, to that point though, it's still an exposed pool, so a neighbor conceivably, something could enter the property from an adjacent.
Remain covered?
Yeah, so if they've got a pool cover, you know, and there's protective pool covers, but the city's reviewed that over the years, and we still don't have a rule that that's acceptable. So, just thinking out loud of how to deal with this, where you've got a fence, and there's no agreement with the neighbors, and he'd have to come back in front of the planning commission to get approval for a fence in the side yard.
Can I
Go ahead, please.
tag up on that? And this is a question for the city attorney. Assuming that there's no approval of the neighbor to use their fence, mere presence of a fence owned by the neighbor, can that be utilized for this application that requires the pool to be surrounded by a fence? I mean, they're gonna create a new portion of it in the side yard, but can they take advantage of an existing fence without approval of the owner of that fence? And as a part of their application here for the creation of a pool fence?
I would say that they would be allowed to if you permit it. I believe you would also be within your rights to require them to enclose it themselves and have two fences together to address some of the issues, the considerations that you're reviewing at the moment.
So the planning commission can utilize the property of somebody else in connection with an application for another property for pool use.
That's what you're being asked to do. The intent of this ordinance is to make sure pools are enclosed with fences that don't have gaps in them more than a specific number of inches. So that is what is accomplished with the proposed plan. However, you're also considering some potential occurrences that may prevent that from completely enclosing it. So I guess it would be up to you to address whether this plan comports with your ordinance's intent, or if you believe that it would be better if it was enclosed completely by the applicant himself.
Look, if I could propose something. So, Dave, we've had situations over the years where fences around pools have been temporary, where they've been exposed. And so we could conceivably, to protect the city and the obligation of the property owner to fence his pool, if they should take the fence down, the neighbor, since there's no deal here, they would be immediately obligated to fence in the pool in a fashion compliant with state law, which is, it's gotta be 4 feet tall, and they would have to immediately take that action. And then, because of the location of this, ultimately, they're gonna be in a side yard, so ultimately, it would have to come back in front of the planning commission. So they've got two obligations. One is, if the fence is removed, they've got to immediately install a temporary fence that satisfies state statute. And then secondly, they're obligated to come back in front of the planning commission for approval for a new fence.
Mr. Chair, can I suggest something?
Please.
If just one of these fences is removed, you want them to come back before the planning commission to put a new fence in along what's already shown?
So this
You
would.
could, what I was gonna say, you could include a condition in any motion that if a fence is removed, that you will allow the applicant to replace that section of fence. Do that in this motion, then they don't need to come back. If they propose to put it in a different location, then yeah, they need to come back. But if they're just, like if they're just replacing the, I don't know, the left-hand blue fence there.
Not there.
If
Well,
that comes
actually, that's
out,
not.
just pre-approve it,
Yep.
you know, I mean, that's,
So,
would save a step.
so what you're saying is, as long as they agree to place it in the same area,
filling in the same gap,
fill in the same gap,
yeah.
it seems like a good solution.
But it would have to be on their property.
But it'd have to be on their property.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And would have to be within 4 inches of the adjacent fence.
Is there any objection to the neighbors? Any of the neighbors objecting to this plan?
Well, you know, I guess I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna ask that question, Lee, that's why I was, so, okay, are we done?
I have just one more comment to make. So I think, I'm pretty sure, this fence right here, the bottom of here, that's an existing fence, correct? Isn't that the neighbor on Haverhill who's putting a pool? We just approved a pool, I think it was 6 or 7 months ago, behind here.
I don't know.
No, the pool's been there since they purchased.
So I guess what I'm confused about is if we, and I know we're gonna get to that, but if I'm a neighbor here and I don't know this is going on and this is my fence, and I don't know any of this is going on and he hasn't talked to me, and I take my fence down, I mean, I don't know, it's, that he was using that for his pool?
So,
And if it's in
to
the,
your point, he, as part of the motion, it's gotta say that if any of these fences are removed, he's gotta immediately protect the pool with some type of temporary protection. Because in all likelihood, you're not gonna get a fence up, depends on the weather and that sort of thing. So he's gotta immediately protect the pool, that's the first thing. Second thing is, he's got to, because that's the rear yard, Mayor, he can do different things back there. He doesn't need a permit to do that, he doesn't need our permission, because it's in the rear yard. I was focused on the side yard,
Okay.
where he does need our approval, but he's got to agree, since he's relying on these fences, to immediately install protection around the pool, and then install a permanent solution. And so that'll be your motion. And to city attorney's suggestion, because part of this is in the side yard, if that section is removed by the neighbor, then he doesn't necessarily have to come back. Ordinarily, because it's in the side yard, by ordinance, he'd have to come back in front of us. But if we replace it with a fence that's 4 inches inside, it's inside on his property, then he can do that. That's the solution. Is that good?
As a practical matter, how are these conditions, if there's an approval here, get passed along to the successor owner? I mean, if he sells in 2 months, do these things get recorded like deed restrictions, or how does the next owner know about these requirements?
I don't believe they're recorded like in the Register of Deeds,
Yeah.
but they're on record with the city, and any movement on this parcel ID number would bring up those conditions. In other words, it's part of the city record.
The new purchaser would be notified of that proactively?
I believe they'd have to do a search of the building history with the city.
how many people did that?
They're not, no, they're able to.
Yeah.
The bottom line, Tom, honestly, unless it's recorded, you're not gonna necessarily find it. And this wouldn't be recorded, so, I don't know. Can I have permission to ask if there's anyone in the audience that has? 'Cause
I still have questions. We all know that generators make noise.
Always passes a condition.
And at a prior session, we had at least one abutting property owner raise concern about noise. My question is there a muffler currently affixed to the current generator?
There is.
I'm sorry?
There is. And that's why it's at the 55 decibel or 56 decibel level,
All right.
which meets the ordinance.
And you seem to be relatively conversant with the subject of mufflers. Let me just ask you, in order to create additional peace in the neighborhood, would the current owner of the property consider upgrading his muffler so that the noise, the decibel level is lowered even lower than it?
I would have to let the owner speak to that.
I certainly would, but I did have Gen Power out who maintains the generator. They said it's literally the quietest generator you can buy. They'll write you a letter if you want that. I can't, but if there is a better muffler, we have to put it on.
I don't sell mufflers, sir. But I'm just raising the issue. Are you willing to consider, and I think I heard you say yes,
Yes.
to keep the peace in the neighborhood. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I guess
I would,
oh, go ahead.
I would caution that, if that's a voluntary, consideration from the owner, that's one thing, but, if the noise level complies with the ordinance, I don't believe that could be a condition. If they're in compliance with the ordinance, it needs to be approved. If they're willing to do that voluntarily, that would be, great, I think, for community relations, but,
I'd sure like to have it in the motion, irrespective, since the owner is willing to voluntarily consider.
oh, absolutely, put it in the motion.
Great.
Just make sure it's designated that he's voluntarily doing that.
Thank you.
I guess to Commissioner's question, not all generators have mufflers. So so it seems like it's important that I didn't realize, you kept on asking these questions about a muffler. So I guess we want to make sure that whatever setup we have, that he maintains this with whatever sound protection system we've got. If he's got something else attached to this, so it's quieter, and I don't know that he does or doesn't, but apparently he does.
I was there with the generator, folks, and he had told me that the generator's been there for a long time, but it's one of the quietest generators, and I can personally tell you, I was there with my decibel
Okay.
level meter, it's very quiet.
Well, and now I know with now I can use my phone to figure that out? Is that right? Okay, all right, all right. I think we're done with you right now.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
so I'm gonna look to the audience. Are there any people that have questions or comments on this? Yes, ma'am.
Catherine O'Jay, I'm the neighbor to the other side who, was misquoted at the ZBA saying that I was approving all of this equipment.
So
right next
could,
to my
could,
house.
could
I'm
you,
at-
ex-
I'm this side. This side,
could we have the whole site plan here? We're not looking at the same picture. The one that we were just looking at, Eric.
You want an aerial?
Yeah, that one, that was, okay. So, which property?
same one, right there.
Oh, okay, so you're up there,
I'm here.
okay?
For myself and, the neighbor who was here before, Ms. Williams, she's taking care of her husband today at the hospital. And the confusing reason why, for the last month, because it's been a month, we are looking at a new plastic fence, because I was there the night it was installed. It was white before and it's cream color now. I watched the guys put in the bases with their chainsaws, which I found offensive after 6 o'clock on a Friday night. So, number one, it's a new fence. Number two, I was misquoted at the ZBA saying I was fine with having all of this equipment. Number three, on the equipment, it's the police officer from Bloomfield Hills was in the driveway, and we couldn't speak, because I'm like, what's going on? And we were talking about something down the way, we were chatting, and I'm like, is the power off? I can't even hear you. It's the generator going with the 2 air conditioners. So now we're gonna have generator going with 2 air conditioners and a pool equipment. That was all approved by ZBA. Doesn't live next door, doesn't live on the other side, doesn't live on the street, doesn't live behind, doesn't live on the other side. So that was reckless of them just to say, yeah, we're okay with that without knowing what all the levels were. Right now, my neighbors and I've just dropped $500,000 into improving everyone's lots in there by redoing my whole property. Now it's all, looks like we're at a trailer park with the next door neighbor's plastic fence and green mesh fence all wired in around there, and then dog fence that he has around his lawn. I don't know, talk about not knowing that we're in Bloomfield Hills. We're looking at a temporary dog fence. If this individual, who's my new neighbor, is worried about his kids getting into a pond, he should put his temporary dog fence in front of the pond. The plastic fence to make sure that no one steals landscaping equipment. I didn't know we were allowed to have bright green mesh fences for everyone who drives by to see, to protect our landscaping equipment. I didn't know that was okay. I didn't know that it was anywhere okay until reading this memorandum, that you can have over a 4-foot white plastic fence as long as you have a foot underneath it, therefore it's just covering equipment. I think that could be abused if that becomes a precedent. The idea that we are going to, or even suggested, that he should be allowed to keep up his temporary dog fence, his white plastic fence that's attached to a green fence, and green fence underneath the 1-foot fence, attached up to another temporary dog fence, which is abutted up to my fence right now, is outrageous for us from neighbors. We live there. It looks terrible. We all know how long construction takes. If this were a construction site right now, it would not be okay. It would not meet any standards for being a construction site. And if this is from 1 month after he was told to remove the white plastic fence, he made it worse. He added a fence, he added a couple fences, he added green mesh fence. This is the kind of compliance that you're gonna have from this applicant. So terribly concerned that a construction site with whoever is running this site, because I don't believe he's making these decisions, I think it's the people who are in charge of his job, do not care what the rest of us are looking at. And I don't see how a Bloomfield Hills resident putting in a lap pool gets to have 2 side yard fences that he's already proved he has no desire to actually cover up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask, where is this pond that we're talking about? Eric, where's the pond?
Yeah, you can see it a little bit better on the aerial. Yep, there.
Oh, well, that's not, oh, I thought it was on the other side.
No, it's on that side.
Oh.
Always been there.
Well, that's not real deep.
It's not that
2.5
deep,
feet deep.
not that deep.
Oh. Okay, I mean, I looked at it, I didn't think it was that deep.
It's about that deep. I mean, I didn't get in it with them.
So I thought, Mayor, you were concerned about the fence on the other side of the house.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's different stuff going on here now, because now, and this becomes actually a statutory issue. If that pond was there before, was it fenced?
You know, I
And
said 11
because,
inches, but
because,
it might be 2 feet. I don't, you know. So
because if it's, because the rule is,
It's a building, the building official isn't here, but I don't know the depth of it. And, if it was built a long time ago, I don't know if it was built. I was there, that thing's been there for a long time.
yeah,
So I don't know if it needs to be fenced. We can certainly look into that from a building code standpoint. If it needs to be fenced because of the depth of it, we can take care of that.
so let me suggest something. Are there any other neighbors here that have discussion points? So, just to sort of summarize the issues here, we've got to enclose this prospective pool, and there's no agreement with the neighbors regarding the fencing. And honestly, I thought when we left this meeting last month, there was gonna be discussion between the neighbors, so there was some understanding. But I don't need it.
There's been attempted discussion.
So, but we've not completed the loop, okay? So we don't have a closed loop. We don't have the pool, the lap pool in yet. and we've got the plastic fence, and I'm not sure what's happened with that. What we need to do right now is, and I guess this is important, Dave, if there's some obligation, I'm hearing mixed signals here about how deep this pond is. If it's required, now that we're discussing this in a public forum, if there's some requirement that it's deep enough to have a requirement for a fence, then we should make sure that, because this pool may not get built.
Yeah, I'll do that, certainly do.
You know,
It's
so-
fair, it's a fair question.
Yeah, so,
I'll make sure.
yeah, we could just make sure that we've got the necessary protection around this pond. I think it's fair to request now, to Mayor's point, on the south side of the house, you said there's a fence there?
It's a temporary fence.
Okay, so there's really no requirement, because you don't have an enclosure right now anyways. So, I think to the homeowner's suggestion, we should clean up this so that it's palatable for people that are driving by. And that'll take care of the temporary condition. And then the permanent solution is to, if we're all agreeing to the location of the fence right now, then we make a motion to approve the design, the proposed design of the fence. And it's got to be conditioned on, if any of the fences are removed, the homeowner is obligated to immediately put in a temporary protective fence that satisfies the state statute, and then put in a permanent solution that is either the same location that we have, that we're proposing right now, or some other compliant fence. And that way we satisfy the neighbor's solution, the neighbor's concern. I mean, I can understand if people are spending a lot of money on their yards, they want the whole place, they don't want to look at temporary stuff. That's fair. If you've got a pond that's got a requirement, and I guess, Dave, that goes back to having just our building official, the rule, I think, is like 18 inches or 24 inches.
I'm trying to look it up, but we'll make sure it's taken care of.
Pardon me?
We'll make sure it's taken care of.
Yep.
I was trying to look it
Okay,
up right now. But
yeah.
that's-
So, and so we satisfy that requirement.
Sure.
And then this fence that they're asking us to approve, it will satisfy both the pond and the lap pool,
Yes.
right? I don't know what the commission thinks about that.
I think that when you say that they have to immediately put a fence in that satisfies Michigan law, I think it would be better to say all applicable laws, because I think our city ordinance is more protective than the state law.
I defer to you. That's a good suggestion. That may mean that you're the best candidate to. You've earned the right to make the motion.
No, can't do it. I'm writing it down, but.
Okay, so, is there more discussion?
Just have a
Yeah.
question. If one of these fences was taken down and the owner was obligated to replace it, would they need to put it at a 4-foot offset and screen it?
Randy, that's a good question. So, I can answer part of that. So to the extent it is in, Eric, can you go back to the illustration of the fence? No, you're supposed to do that, not Joe. Okay, so to your question, so if a fence is in a rear yard, homeowner is not obligated to provide any screening. So they're not obligated to do that. However, it's gotta be on their property. So if those fences were removed and they're not on their property, it's gotta be installed on their property.
So on a side yard, it would be offset, but not in the back?
Yes, yeah.
I have a question. Last month, we came, my neighbor and I, even though she's a full-time caretaker, we came here and the applicant was told to remove his white plastic fence. He did not do that. The idea that the commission would consider giving him another fence when he still hasn't complied with the conditions set last time, or that is gonna be very disappointing to the rest of the neighbors. He has a junky white fence out there, he has a junky green mesh fence out there, and we're all looking at that, and the idea that he can come in here and ask for consideration for some bill that's gonna happen sometime
Okay,
next year.
if I could, Catherine, so what I would propose, we should remedy all this temporary. I mean, the homeowner needs to remove, he's got to clean up the yard. What can, I guess I'm gonna look to you, Dave.
Well, I mean, I understand, certainly that green mesh fence doesn't look good, and some of these other things don't look good. Right now, and I don't know if it's been removed, but half of that plastic fence is screened, fully screened, and the other half you can see it from the street. The problem is, if you remove that, you're gonna see all the equipment. So I guess it depends how fast they're going to get all this equipment in. And when I look at the minutes, it's really, the motion was to develop a plan to remove that. So I mean, I guess they could put more screening in front of that fence that's there to temporarily.
So I guess, bottom line, we need a timeline on this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what prevents him from getting approval and leaving this current condition as it is? I guess his permit will expire in 6 months if he gets permission from this commission. But what's to prevent him from just leaving the condition as it is? I don't think removing the fence, frankly, is necessarily the best solution, because all that equipment's back there.
Right. So I mean, there's maybe a portion of the fence that can be seen from the street that we can do something with, but, you know, during construction, they're gonna have to bring equipment back to put the pool in and that, so I'm not sure if they'll be able to enter from the side over here, or if it's easier to go through the driveway and get around that existing generator. Maybe if they could just leave the fence portion covering the generator and then they can remove the other part. I don't know.
Is the fence permitted? Is the side yard fence
Well,
permitted?
no, actually, this, to your point, Lee, this fence is not permitted.
It's not permitted.
So, just so everyone understands, I'm not sure how all this happened, but our city ordinance, just so everyone understands, there's distances. And this hardware, I'm not sure how it got located where it is. It's supposed to be within, what, 4 or 6 feet from the building?
5.
Within 5, so it's supposed to be within 5 feet of the building. And so this is 20 feet from the building. Now, homeowner, this fella, he didn't install it. He bought it that way. We're not really sure, and I haven't asked that question because it doesn't matter, right? What we have right now, we have a bunch of hardware sitting out there. I'm not sure how it got there. It was all installed within the last 10 years or so, it seems like. It probably shouldn't have been installed where it is, but it is. And so your question is, does that plastic fence belong there? No.
So it should come out.
But if you pull it out, then you're gonna be listed, you're gonna be,
That's what the neighbors are asking for.
yeah. So,
So if makes the neighbors happy, let's get
yeah.
it out of there.
okay.
The plastic
That-
fence was there prior to purchase.
So I
No, it's
guess.
not permitted.
matter.
It shouldn't be there.
Well, that's a good point. So then I guess then he's obligated to landscape it immediately,
I'm gonna
right?
attempt to make a motion.
Pardon me?
Can I attempt to make a motion?
Please.
here? I would make a motion that we approve the fencing plan that is shown to us here. Also understanding that if any of the rear yard or side yard fence that belongs to the neighbors is ever removed, that he's willing to replace it to keep his pool enclosed properly. In addition to that, any fencing that's in the side yard today needs to come out next week. Needs to be gone.
There's also the side. pool approval.
And we approve the location. Like I said, approve the plan as it sits right here. I would approve the pool, the fencing and everything. We have to make sure that he understands that he's gonna replace the fence if the neighbors remove theirs. And that any fencing currently in the side yard that is not permitted comes out immediately.
Can I offer, if he removes his fencing, then you're gonna see this hardware.
That's what the neighbors have asked for. It's not permitted, so.
So,
let's
but.
let him
No,
get it out.
no, he
But
has
wait,
to,
but may I ask this question? So, does it become incumbent on him to provide some kind of screening? I guess, that then, under ordinance, he's still gotta screen this.
yes.
This, I mean, it gets complicated. So if you take the fence down, it's sort of like, have you, cut your, created, sort of shot yourself in,
No, then he takes the fence down, he falls under the ordinance of he has to screen it. So if he has to put trees, he's gotta screen it. We're not, I don't think he's right, the neighbors want it down and they want it screened like it used to be, so he's gonna have to
So he's
screen
got to
it.
immediately put in these arborvitae.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's fine.
so the next question then is, how is he going to access the site? Because if he's building a pool in the backyard, and you put up all those arborvitaes, you're not gonna be able to get into.
Right here, this side.
That's his problem.
That's his problem.
Well,
You're gonna have to open it up.
But his problem will become the neighbor's problem if he starts running trucks in.
He's not gonna access from there anyway, because there's generators and all that, you can't run over.
No, that's what they are.
So he could go right here.
That's a
You
totally
can't go,
separate issue.
this side's too steep a hill. going down.
So there's no access on the south side.
No, and it's a steep hill, so they can't take heavy, they gotta come in through that side. But it's not a problem, they can still get through where I'm putting the fencing, at the gate, so that gate
Okay.
section, once they start, the pool can come down, which I don't mind doing, and they can come through it, and then when they're done, put it back.
So you gotta put the arborvitaes in right now.
Well, I mean, I can't get arborvitae's next week, but I'll put them in.
Well,
As soon as
actually-
I do that,
You can.
You can.
I mean, there's plenty of inventory of arborvitaes. And, I mean,
if you have a landscaper to do it next week, let me know. But I'm happy to do it as soon, if we approve the fence as it's stated on this thing, I will tell the fence company tomorrow to get going, to do it. They've told me everybody's trying, it's 6 different ones, it's 6 weeks. If I get started now, which I'm happy to do before the pool. If that makes everybody happy, I'm happy to go ahead and put in the new fence and the screening right away.
I don't think we care when the new fence goes in as much as we care that the old fence gets out of there.
and it's screened,
Immediately.
yeah, and you
Like
install screening.
This by next week, it's going.
Okay,
Yes. Agreed.
all right.
What about
So-
the pond, is it protected?
I
I'll
guess
check on that.
It's a
Dave's-
separate thing.
Dave's gonna check. on
Pond
that.
needs to be protected, you can put a temporary fence directly around the pond.
And it would be behind the screening that's gotta be, so right now there's a white plastic fence. To Commissioner's motion, it's gotta be immediately removed. And you've already got a plan to install these arborvitaes in there. Go install them. So you've got the hardware that's gonna be exposed, so you're gonna install vegetation so that now it's properly screened, and it's a permanent solution. You can install the fence later on, but the arborvitaes, the screening is gonna be in place, so that part is done. If you have to enclose that pond with a fence, that's behind the arborvitaes, so that's all good. And all the other temporary fencing has to be gone. That's your, I don't want to,
And it should be gone by the end of the business week next week,
okay? So,
in order for the approval to go through.
go ahead.
So, Madam Clerk, you just heard a motion and a lot of amendment modification. Did you catch all that?
I'm satisfied, thank you.
But question to you, Commissioner Hassler, that the letter, do we have to make it in the motion just to strike that letter? It doesn't mean anything?
Yeah, I think that's implied in the
Okay.
context of the motion, but for the record, the letter that the applicant submitted conditioning his attention to any removed fence, we're disregarding. And your compliance with replacing any portion of your neighbor's fence that's removed, you just gotta get a fill in the gap. Right, understand.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Good luck with your pool.
Amy, did you have that down for August 21st as the deadline? Or just within a week?
These things always take longer than, you get, you get. On our agenda is the Planning Commission will consider the request of the property owner at 630 Vaughan Road for approval to retain the existing decorative entrance gate.
We just have the address, that's all there is.
Mr. Chair, I did provide a letter in the packet to describe this issue, and it's a gate that's been installed, and there's a condition that in the original 2009 approval, that if there were to change, the property were to change hands, that the planning commission would again look at this gate and approve it, or consider approval for it. So, so the property did transfer ownership, and not only do I have a letter in here, but the council, the property owners' council provided a letter. And I'm not sure how much you want me to go through this, but there's several considerations for the planning commission. There's the existing condition of the gate. The gate was approved in 2009 and again in 2010. And in the 2010 minutes is where there were security concerns that were a primary consideration, and the commission expressed concern regarding the potential precedent created by permitting that gate on the Vaughan Road. Emergency access, the prior approvals address emergency access concerns. So in the prior approval, the planning commission wanted to make sure that the public safety department could make entry through access codes and have an indemnification agreement. And the ownership specific review, there's that requirement that I just talked about, that any future owners have to confirm the continued compliance, which I believe the property owners council provided that. And so this is just something that was created back in 2010, and it's been a long time, but the gate's been there. I'm not sure if the attorney is here or the property owner is here and can talk to the condition of the gate and the reason for to keep the gate. Might be helpful to the planning commission.
Do we have any images of this?
I can put up Google.
Pardon me?
Yeah,
I can put up the street view from Google.
I drove by it and to see the condition, and
I mean, just, is that difficult?
No,
There are two gates, there's two gates.
There's two gates.
oh, you can see them that well, honestly, because there's a lot of screening here.
So we're gonna watch your computer expertise here.
Possibly.
Well,
Watch me.
and I know you're dynamite at this, Amy, so.
While she's doing that, getting back to the issue of conditions running with the land, is this indemnification agreement bind to current owners too?
it is, the letter in there by the council is the,
The letter, though, says the owner is prepared to comply with
Oh,
the
yeah.
same material conditions.
Yeah.
I think that kind of, again, there's a qualification there that,
Exactly.
shouldn't they just sign a new agreement, just like the prior two owners did?
Yeah.
Same terms and conditions
Or
that
just
would
stipulate
be
that-
recorded?
Because I would interpret this like, the commissioner just did, that it may not apply to the current owners unless they stipulate to it and there's a continuing acknowledgement that gets recorded as well.
It's difficult to see,
So
that there's a gate
there's another entry though, too.
down the street.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's open, it has.
no,
No,
the other
no,
way.
other way.
The service gate.
It has fake greenery in it.
Right.
Oh, maybe the fake greenery is gone? They used to have fake greenery.
I mean, this is an image from May of 2025, so.
Okay.
Okay, so there's the gate.
That's not the gate we're talking about.
No, that's not the one we're talking about.
I think it continues on.
Oh, let's go further south. It's not actually
This is
what I
looking
would,
at 600, though, if you look at the, so,
can you go up, do the, let's see, where it's,
so this.
no,
is the property.
it doesn't, it's the next house. No, let's see.
This
No,
is-
actually, it's up.
No,
It's,
no, it's one
it's-
around the
it-
corner.
This is the one where the
Yeah.
pin is, yeah, that's 631.
It's like a circle drive.
Yeah,
There's two gates. One's the main gate that's coming and going, the other service gate is closer to Lasser Road.
Right.
yes.
There's an initial on the gate.
So I think this was the first, this driveway
Yeah,
right here was the
That's
first
the one
one I
we're
showed
talking
you.
about.
Yeah, I think that was the first one I showed you, first
Correct.
image.
Correct.
So do they want to keep both gates or just one? Which one are we talking about?
That one. Whoops. That one right there.
This is the first part of the circular driveway.
Amy, can you go south?
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
So there's another gate. So, and I can actually give people the background on this. So the people that own this, and they're a well-known family, they did have security concerns. And so this entry was designed so that they could get maintenance vehicles and that sort of thing in. So that's the south entry. Then the other entry was sort of more the main entry. And that happened a bunch of years ago. And I think the commission at that point decided, if it changes hands, you gotta come back in front of the commission, get approval, and I guess to our attorneys here on the commission, you guys raised the point that this obligation, this condition to accept whatever obligation they have needs to be,
Well, let me just, so, for the record, the letter that we're referring to is dated July 29, 2026, from the applicant's attorneys, and they attach as exhibits, as an exhibit, the indemnification agreement that was executed on September 28, 2010, by the prior owner. And in this letter, what they say in part is that the owner is prepared to comply with the same material conditions reflected in the prior indemnity agreement, including maintaining any emergency access code assigned by the city public safety department, and indemnifying and holding harmless the city in connection with emergency access issues arising from the gate. So I interpret that to mean that they're prepared to accept the requirements of the indemnification agreement recorded in 2010. So I'd ask that somebody prepare a continuing agreement that obligates the current owner to agree to the same terms and conditions of that 2010 indemnification.
And I would just indicate the applicant's attorney is present.
Oh, you,
And I would note that there's actually 2 indemnification agreements in the packet. It looks like one's dated 2009 by one resident, and there's a different 2010 agreement with a different individual. So I think it's contemplated that new owners will sign a
yeah, the
indemnification
2010
agreement.
was from the prior owner, the
Right.
the 09 was the prior owner, the 2010 is the current.
Yeah,
Seller.
and what I'm saying is I think there's precedent that the new resident will sign their own agreement, so
Is that-
we can do that.
So, are you here as
Yes.
representative? Could you let us know who you are? And
Yeah, my name is Attorney Sam Kilberg. I'm here on behalf of Alex and Lily Stoughton, the new owners of 630 Vaughn Road. Lily and Alex wanted to be here. It's actually Lily's birthday, so they had some pre-existing obligations. Alex is hopefully spoiling her, but I can get them available, but they just physically couldn't be here. But so this comes about, they just bought this property last month. In buying the property, there was this indemnity agreement that came up on title, which we reviewed. I've walked through them. We understand the agreement. We actually reached out to the city and said, we saw this agreement, can you let us know a little more about it? We have no problem, swap out the names, enter into it. I think that's kind of what I saw when I was looking at the title work. It looks like this fence was originally approved in 2009. It switched hands in 2010 to the new owner, and so then they went back and approved it with these new conditions. We are fine with all of them. We are fine with the indemnity. We are fine with providing the access code. My understanding in purchasing the property is the gate's in really good condition. It's been there for 17 years. They're now the third owners of it. They just want to leave it. They don't want to change it. They're not going to move it. They will maintain it. But it is, they bought the property that has it, as opposed to, ripping it out, moving on landscaping. They just want to leave it as is. So a part of that indemnification agreement was the requirement that we petition to approve and sign a new indemnity agreement to move forward. So that's really the ask. The ask is, we want to leave the fence. We were fine with signing an indemnity agreement, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
any questions? Okay.
I'll move to approve the application upon the condition that the current owners execute and record an indemnification on the same terms and conditions as the one that was recorded in 2010.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item is the Planning Commission will consider the request of the property owner at 524 Barrington Court for approval to install a pool and a fence in the front and side yards.
All right, so we've got this property at 524 Barrington Court. They are almost on the corner of Hickory Grove and Woodward, but not quite. But they do have frontage on Barrington as well as backing up to Woodward. So you can see the aerial here, you can see the other houses on that street. And then a little bit closer view. Switching, changing our orientation just a little bit so that north is now off to the side slightly. You could see the front yard and the Woodward frontage of this lot here. And their proposed pool and pool house, as well as the fence that goes around it in the front yard and the side yard. You can also see all of the landscaping proposed that goes around the entire portion of that. This applicant did go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the front setback to the pool, the encroachment, and they did receive that. So they are here for you to consider their request for the pool and the pool fence. See those? And then there is also a grading request as well. Are there any questions about the pool fence?
Yeah, I've got some. So that image, and then if you want to toggle back to the image you just left.
This one?
That one, yeah.
Okay.
So if I'm remembering correctly, and if this is the same property, the owners want an actual wall along Woodward that, if I'm remembering correctly, was not approved. So is that what that depiction is from a prior proposal that?
This image, I think, is the prior one.
It is, yeah, it shows the wall, but.
But that's not gonna be there now.
Correct,
Right.
yeah, this is just a dimensional, the fence will be in the same location as the wall, but the wall has.
So the revised ask is a fence, and is that wrought iron with 4 foot? Okay, and as I understand it, it kind of, the topography goes down, is that just gonna be 4 feet all the way down? And is that new landscaping behind it, or is that the same landscaping that was proposed for, when they had the wall?
I believe it's the same, the applicant can confirm, and they do have a little bit of a presentation following the city engineer's presentation, they can go through those images with you in specific patch.
Can we see an aerial of this? So, let's try to understand what's going on here. So we've got this site that has a lot of vegetation in it. And so all of that's gonna be removed.
Well, I believe some of this along the property line is retained, and then.
Well, and that's what I'm
there
trying
is
to figure
a wall
out here.
is
So this
Well,
one,
and I think it would be helpful to hear from the applicant and hear from HRC on the grading, because there's a lot going on with that I think might make more sense once we go through all of it.
okay, because I guess I'd like to know where the fence is in relation to all this. And then what you're gonna end up seeing from Woodward. Okay,
Good.
so,
I'll move on to the HRC slides,
okay,
and then we can circle back.
all right. Mr. Burton.
Mr. Chairperson, hi. Jamie Burton with Hubble, Roth and Clark. So this is on the agenda in addition to the pool and the fence in the front and side yards, also for grading variance. This applicant came in and has worked with the city to kind of shrink and move things around. We didn't feel that it was enough. If you look at the scale of this pool and this pool deck and the amount of like hardscape behind there, it's a lot, and therefore requires the grading variance. And it appears to us that a smaller pool deck and pool area would be appropriate, and along with maybe lowering that pool deck would eliminate most of the areas of cuts and fills. So consistent with the ordinance, it's our opinion that it would have to come before you, and as the applicant will describe, and you guys can make up your mind. But again, they did work with us. I don't want to diminish the fact that they did work with us, and they got to a point where they said, this is as far as we're willing to go with us, and we said it has to go before the planning commission. So they are, other than what the areas that we're about to show you, the stormwater is going to work, all the other grading works, it's just this kind of this area in the pool deck. I call it the pool deck, but you know, there's landscaping and there's other seating areas. So mentioned already that the leaching basin off into the corner, we typically, when the subdivision drainage is set up for the homes, a reasonable amount of patio space, driveways, etc. But when you start adding more and more impervious surface, we always ask for more drainage. So they are putting a leaching basin in, and again, that all works out. You've kind of already seen this photo. Jump in there if you need it. So if you see the areas up to 4 feet, it's like 3'8" or 3'10", something in here, but more than the normal 2 foot. So this is 2 to 3, 3 to 4 in these areas, and you can see, and you'll see by the renderings in their report. I mean, there's a lot of space in this pool deck. This isn't just for the pool and a 5-foot patio. This is a full-blown patio, for entertaining and other things. So we still believe this request could be minimized by essentially pulling in these walls and making that area smaller, thus avoiding the need for the grading variance. But all things considered, that's their right to come before you and have that conversation. So our recommendation was to move this in and down, and possibly even add more steps, so this whole thing could get moved down even closer to grade. that adds a little bit more grading on this side, kind of balances it out, but from an engineering perspective, they just didn't go far enough, in our opinion, to minimize the request. So that's why they're here before you guys tonight. Yeah, just kind of zoom in those areas. And that, let's see here, is this the applicant stuff? Yeah. I believe. So I'll be happy to answer any questions related to the engineering side of this. The rest of the site's compliant, it's just these areas.
So from a stormwater perspective, you're happy?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Is the applicant here?
Good evening, everybody. My name is CJ Thompson. I'm a landscape architect with Grissom, Messing, Andreessen Associates. I'm here representing the homeowners. They're here as well at 524 Barrington Court. I guess if we start on the grading slides here, as HRC mentioned, we did have a lot of back and forth. I think we met twice throughout this process with the city's engineers to try and come up with a plan. And we did alleviate a lot of their comments at the beginning, such as the stormwater improvements that you've seen. We also were able to lift the original mass grading comment that we received by tying into the existing contours more on the north side of the pool. A couple reasons why we're asking for this request and kind of really didn't want to budge on where we're at with this grading variance. The first is the existing topography of the site. Let's go back one. Maybe this shows a little bit better. We have about 12 feet of grade change from the left side of the screen down to the right. So there is an extensive grade change pretty much left to right down this plan. So everything else we really kept in time with the existing topography. A good example of that is this section here. So that red line that you're seeing is the existing grade. The blue is where we're proposed finished grade at. And you can kind of see the tall area where the arrow is pointing is where we're in excess of the 2 feet of fill. And that is really just to hold the pool deck up at that elevation. So one of the reasons we didn't want to budge on adding steps or lowering that area is one's a safety concern, right? Anytime you start to add steps around a pool, the applicants have little kids. We all know little kids like running around a pool, and it's not a safe condition to start to drop the grade around the pool. So that was one. The other is just for circulation, right? I guess if I could push back a little bit too on the thought that this is an excessively big pool area. I mean, in the pool designs that I've done, and probably ones you've seen at this commission, right? A typical pool we're putting in is anywhere from 20 feet by 40 feet, even 50 feet long. This one's 18 foot by 35 feet. So we already shrunk the pool down originally from what the applicant would have wanted, right, in a perfect scenario. And we have a lot of factors too. We have the setbacks that are tying us into this tight area, so that's a big driver of that as well. But the pool is smaller in size. And then if you look on the north side of the pool, where we have that 10-foot 8 dimension, kind of that diamond pattern, that's the north side of the pool. That's, you know, where the chase lounges go. You get the most sun, and I'd like to get about 15 feet normally on a regular pool, right, to have room for the chairs, 5 feet next to the pool.
Can you like point where you're talking about?
I'd love to. This guy here. Yeah, so this north side of the pool, right? So that's where you really want to get the sunning side of the pool per se. So in a perfect scenario where we didn't
Actually, that's the east side of the pool, isn't it?
it's northeast, yeah. So, but anyway.
Because the north side would be where that arrow is.
Northwest, yeah, north is like this
All right.
direction, so, but we have more room on that side. The cabana wanted to be on the northwest side per se down here. But I guess what I'm saying is, in a perfect scenario, we really would like this pool deck even bigger, just to have room for the lounges and 5 feet of circulation around the pool, so we shrunk that down as well. So we really try to keep this as confined as possible. And then the numbers themselves, so the area of fill that we have on, we are proposing, it's a total of 711 square feet. That's less than 2% of the property. So looking at a site that drops 12 feet, we thought that was a really good path forward for us to propose, hey, we're trying to keep this as minimal as possible, and we're really only in violation of the ordinance for that small amount of the total property. I believe that's most of it. I'll show you some of these images too, just so you can get an idea. This is probably a good look at that corner, right, where it's really the corner of the pool. where we really don't wanna look at dropping it down any further, like I said, for safety. Another thing that HRC mentioned too that we took a look at was this landscape bed here. And their comment was, hey, just if we remove the landscape bed in this area, that gets rid of some of the fill area. But again, going back to safety, it's a much safer condition for a misstep off the pool deck to be stepping in mulch or dirt instead of off the edge of the pool, right, and falling down that drop there. So again, safety was the biggest concern of why we're asking for this ordinance and trying to keep it as confined as possible. To get back to, I'll flip through these real quick so you can kind of see. There's the north side of the pool there that we talked about. So it is pretty tight for my liking. I'd like to get a little more room there if we could. You have about 4 feet, 3 or 4 feet in front of those lounges. Just another look. Back to cabana. Back to the other side. There is one view of the existing vegetation I'm going to try and get to for you here. This shows a screening too. If we're talking about the pool fence, everything we're doing. These are 15-foot tall green giant arborvitaes, 6-foot tall emerald green on both sides. So none of the neighbors or anyone from Woodward is going to be able to see that fence. Here's the existing view from Woodward Avenue. So maybe to clarify one of the questions that was asked, we are only selectively removing the vegetation that's on our property. All the vegetation outside the property line would remain. So that's where you see a lot of this understory brush, some of these trees that are out here. So there will be a level of screening from Woodward before you get to the screening that we're providing in addition along the fence line. Because our goal too is, one, that the neighbor, or I'm sorry, the homeowners, they're not seeing Woodward, right? They don't want to see it here, so we're trying to do anything we can to screen that. So at the same time, people driving down Woodward won't be able to see it either. So that's the end of our presentation. I'm happy to dive into and answer any questions you guys have.
So does anyone have any questions here?
What's the open space calculation?
We were over 60%. I think we're right at like 61 and some change, so just over what we're required to do, but we met the ordinance there.
Instead of fencing the entire front yard, would you consider fencing just the pool area?
We initially considered that. I think, you know, a reason we didn't want to do that, one's just the homeowner having access to these different terraces that we had to do, especially, I'm sorry, there's a good view, but with the pool cabana and then kind of these drop downs to these different levels that we had to do to make the grade work, there wasn't really a great solution without a bunch of gates. So, and like I said, they have little kids, so free access to the yard space and the lawn area is pretty key without having a bunch of impediments. So it would be our preference to keep it on the outside, but we did consider that.
Tell me about this building, this pool house.
Mm-hmm.
How tall is it?
I'm not the architect, I don't know off the top of my head. It did meet, I think, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, we did meet the ordinance for the height of the pool cabana. So it was under, I think it's 18 feet or something like that. 14, sorry, yeah,
So is this fully screened? So we have an ordinance that governs accessory structures?
We believe, talking initially, that we were screening it by the arborvitae that were on this side. In addition, there is existing blue spruce all the way down this property line from the neighbor's yard. So you kind of have this two-level screening effect going on.
So what about from the front?
From the front, so on that side, I'll go back to an aerial. We are also screening, the arborvitaes wrap around here and screen it as well. This is an open access gate for maintenance and vehicles, but the actual cabana side is being screened there as well.
Those aren't gonna be.
So I'm
all
trying to
up your point.
understand, so they've got, so this is, if this is 14 feet, so we've got 14-foot screening, this is all screened? I mean, we looked at that?
Yeah,
Otherwise, yeah, because it's not, I mean, it's an accessory structure, and it's not subject to our review, provided it's all screened. So this is 100% screened. It's a 14-foot tall building, and it's 100% screened. I'm looking at you guys.
If it's determined that there's areas that would be screened to be improved, then
but not the, I think you're talking about the building, right?
I'm talking about the pool house.
Yeah, the pool house.
Yeah.
Is that screened from the road?
There's a big drop off in grade there too. I don't know if we have an image of that. Maybe the aerial show. We don't have an image. There is a great drop off and a long distance to the road. So with that in combination with the arborvitae that we're planting there, I think we decided in those meetings that that would be fully screened.
Pretty good looking pool house anyway.
Thank you.
Question for Giffords, did you guys look at the open space calculation? Looking at the lot, it does not seem like there's 60% open space. Just on the area.
We'll double check to see what that exact calculation was.
I mean, they've got it in
We
there.
barely made it to, it was just over 60%, but
Because this is a lot that's zoned A6, so it's not your typical 75%, 25% lot coverage, it's 60%.
just 60, correct. Yep, we just made it over that.
So for, just a comment for the commissioners, you know, we have this ordinance about no cuts and fills over 2 feet, and it's there for a reason. Because you don't want to start digging into the ground, and it's the water, like Jamie said, you know, you can put in as many, I've learned this from Jamie, you can put in as many, what do they call them, swales or front, but it only takes so much. We've always run by the rule that you fit the pool or the house to fit the yard, not to change the yard to fit the pool or the house. So, I say that because you know, you were given some suggestions, but you said, no, we want to do this. You know, Commissioner Gaspar just said too, did you think about doing this? And you're like, no, I want to do this. I mean, there are ways that you could have mitigated this.
Yeah, and I don't want it to come off like, I hope it's not, that we didn't want to work with the commissioner. We had 2 meetings, we changed this design a lot from what the applicant originally wanted to go in with. So I think what you're seeing today, in our opinion, is a compromise plan to shrink the pool down, to shrink the pool deck down to a minimum size that gives a homeowner a pool that's complementary to the neighbors and everyone else that they have in the area. But at the same time, trying to get over this unique problem of 12 feet of grade change across this whole entire yard. So yeah, I hope it's not like we're not budging on anything. We budge on a lot throughout this process and are hopefully showing you that compromise plan here today.
My last comment is I have the same reservations that Commissioner Balmas and Hostler said about the open space. This looks like we're shoving a lot of hard space on a lot. How many acres is this?
It's the lot size I know is 34,000 square feet. So that's, what is that?
Over 3/4?
Just under 3.
Less
just
than an
under 3
acre?
quarters.
It's not even an
We
acre.
have that
They're,
plan
they're
mentioned.
like site condos.
Oh,
My friend
that's
lives
right.
on that corner. She lives 2 doors over.
That's
Her
right.
yard is so tiny in the back. She's up against Hickory Grove.
Requirement is 60% and proposed is 61.5.
So, just so everyone understands, and this property was subject to a bunch of provisions in a master deed. And I don't know if cities looked at that. I've looked at this master deed in connection with other developments on this property. I don't know if there's an open space condition attached to the master deed, because I haven't looked at it in a few years. But what happened with this property when it was developed way back when is there were some different zonings here. And so what the city did when this was approved, which was long before I came on this commission, it was in the, I don't know, about 2000, around 2000 or something. Okay, there you go. They took, the planning commission took the property and considered the different zonings to come up with what was allowable on this site. And there was give and take. So I don't know if ZBA looked at that or not. Normally, these things come to planning before they go to ZBA, so I'm not sure about any of that. I'm gonna offer one comment, though, about the cuts and fills. And I'll take the 80-20 rule. You know, 80%, I think we sort of see everything in the same light. Is I look at this, if anyone's gone, I went out and looked at this, tough piece of property. One thing I noticed on your plan, you've got air conditioners and everything, and none of that's even shown on your plan.
Yeah, it's right down here.
Actually, that's not where that is, I don't think. I think those air conditioners.
Those are relocated air conditioners.
Oh, so you,
Yes.
because those are air
Yeah.
conditioners right now are where that arrow
Right
is.
there, yeah.
And I looked at that and I thought, well, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We had
this
to move-
plan isn't what it looks like today.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we had to move those to make room for these improvements.
So you've got these big walls, you've got a concave wall that apparently you're gonna remove all that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That wall, so.
So this
the
is not
porch-
okay.
No, so we had to make those modifications, so that porch that you're talking about here, that's where that wall is. So that wall's coming down, the porch is getting the new pavement, but that's staying where it is, because that's the access to the backyard.
So the city, we allow 2-foot grade changes without any request for permission. And so here, you know, that light green area, I'm the first to look at proposals when people are like really pushing the limit and they don't need to. But this is a tough piece of property. And, you know, one of the questions I asked Jamie, Mr. Burton, was whether or not there was a stormwater problem. And so when we look at grading, that's always a condition. And there's no stormwater problem here. It's a tough site, and, you know, I guess I'm less troubled about the grade change than I am about its proximity to Woodward. And, I mean, I can see where you'd be sensitive to your proximity, but I don't think the city wants to be looking into your backyard. You guys don't want people looking into your backyard. And really, everything, that's why I asked about the aerial. This is all heavily vegetated. You're gonna be removing, I mean, that vegetation, it's within 20 feet of it's like where that dotted line is.
Yeah, Woodward, we do have quite a distance, it's hard to see from.
No, I know, but you're gonna be removing all that vegetation.
Pretty much the existing arbs there in the
And
backyard.
you're putting in a fence, and, you know, I'm just wondering what's gonna be visible from the road.
I believe it's gonna be a very similar condition to today. There is a considerable amount of vegetation still off the property that's gonna remain, as we saw from that one image at the end of the presentation. Go to, oops, right there. So all this vegetation on this front line is off the property line.
Which, with all due respect, goes away in the wintertime. That's deciduous and,
Which it does now too.
but actually, you've got all the evergreens that you're removing.
Actually, the evergreens that are there, they're pretty much about 15 feet now, maybe. So the ones we're putting back are going in at 15 feet. So we're trying to recreate that screen existing the way it is today to be evergreen, like you said, too, to be in there in the winter. Because again, if anyone doesn't want to see Woodward, it's the homeowners.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, so I'm actually less concerned about the grade change here, because it's a tough piece of property. And I've heard some commissioners say, you know, you gotta build to the site, and I get all that. I'm a believer in that. This, we allow up to 2 feet, and actually, the city manager, on a good day, if you catch him, he can actually approve up to 4 feet. So, I guess we didn't catch him on a good, I'm just kidding. But in deference, but city manager is generally taking the position, if it's over 2 feet, it's generally coming here. I mean,
Well, I've taken a position that I just look to our engineers, believe that, I'm not an engineer, and I just want to make sure our engineers are okay with it, and certainly the planning commission can take a different approach than what the engineer says, but, it's here because he believed there could be some.
If there was, yeah, if there was a stormwater problem, but, yeah, I don't know, if you've gone back, were you able to go back there? It's,
I grew up, I cut my teeth in Bloomfield Hills on this.
no, I know, but,
So I go out,
I mean,
we-
just
Yeah,
recently.
We drove by, we took a look, and
If you walk into the backyard, though,
No,
I mean,
I know.
I did.
I
I mean,
stopped along Woodward a little bit.
yeah.
So our position, just to clarify, so our position is that our job is to push to what Commissioner McCarthy mentioned, which is to push down to the ordinance to the extent humanly possible. There are lots and there are improvements that you cannot do anything about, that you have to do something. But in an area that is, with all due respect to the applicant, an artificial backyard that's not flat, now we're saying it's unique, it's 12 feet, but I want a flat backyard, you can shrink this. And so that's why we drew a line in the sand and said, we can shrink this. And they said no, and that's okay. They did work with us, it was all mutual conversation. And that's why it's before you to weigh the benefits of this against the detriment of the fill, which is really not a detriment to your point of stormwater. But again, if this was just for the corner of a house, and a normal size house, and normal lot acreage, I wouldn't have a problem with this at all. But now you're talking about a pool in the backyard on a 12-foot grading slope lot, right? Now every lot in Bloomfield Hills has flat enough for a pool and a sport court within 2 feet. So our job is to push that envelope as close as we can to get it, and then bring it before you if we can't get further. That's why it's here, plain and simple. Now, if those impacts aren't that big a deal, I would lay down in front of this planning commission if it was gonna cause a stormwater problem. You guys know that.
And that is a small pool. 18 by 35? Yeah, I mean,
It's a big deck on a lot
Yeah.
that's at the open space requirements, so.
Your recommendation is that this should be limited.
Yes.
Our position is, as an appeal, they have a right to come before you to appeal our decision. Our decision is there's more that can be done to minimize the grading and the fill in those two areas.
So-
And I outlined those in my presentation to say this is what could be done. The applicant has said, hey, in keeping with aesthetics or harmony of the neighborhood and all the things that they mentioned, that's unfortunately now it's your job to render an opinion whether or not which aesthetics, the value, everything else versus the grading.
Thank you, Jamie, for.
What would you do here, Jamie?
Yeah.
I would cut, so a couple different things you could do. First off, is you could build, so put the landscaping on the hill, not on top of the wall. Does that make sense? So the wall could be moved in, and the whole landscaping area could be on the downhill side of the pool deck. So you don't need to go back out, so now you move that whole area in. That landscape, now I understand that the fall hazard, but you could do brick walls, you could do a railing or some sort along there. So that's one area, and then again,
Can you drop the whole deck?
you could drop the whole deck, but.
If you drop the whole deck-
You could add 2 more steps, you could do, those are the things that we still think could be done. I'm gonna stand up if you don't mind. Again, it's a balancing act as to what the owner wants, but the owner to get there needs an appeal. You need 12-foot walkway here, could this be 6 or 8? Could this landscaping be pushed in this area, could this be all moved down? Again, I get what they wanna do, and I think this is beautiful, if this is my backyard, I probably want this too. But you're on a 12-foot graded lot, like they said. So this could be the wall, and this landscaping could be down. Now, yes, you step off, but again, you got 10 feet, I mean, there's certain things that, it's still, I think, HRC's opinion is, this is a lot, and I think there's reasonable solutions to change this, to minimize this 2 areas. I don't care if it's 500 square feet or 10 square feet, there's still something that can be done, we're gonna make a recommendation. Just like, one of the sites we said, we need stormwater management, but that stormwater management means we need to rip out more trees, and the planning commission says, the trees are more important. So to me, that's why you guys get paid the $5 a meeting, big lots, or whatever it is, to make those decisions. That's what we just look at, this is a lot of stuff.
Has there been any schematic done along the lines of what you suggested?
No, I think we had good conversations with them and talking with it, but it just becomes,
Yeah, I mean, you don't, if you come off here, stop here, all of this all goes away. Now we're just talking, we keep shrinking both of those things. You drop this down, instead of this steps, you drop it down 8 more inches. Now you're, instead of 3.8, you're at 3 feet. So all of a sudden, everything gets condensed. This is just, if this is whatever, 18, 28, this is 50 feet away from the house. So it's just a lot. And again, I understand the aesthetics, but my job isn't to look at the aesthetics. My job is to say what else can be done to keep the grading. Those are our recommendations. You guys can do what you want with them. If it was a stormwater problem, I'd be saying, please don't, we have to fix this as a condition of approval. Is the grading under our purview?
Pardon me?
Is the grading under our purview?
It is.
The appeal process is under the planning commission.
You've not denied this.
And technically we have. Technically we've said we do not recommend approval. And therefore the appeal process on the ordinance, then the appeal comes to you to appeal our decision. So our decision is there's still things that can be done. They have every right to appeal, which they've done, and they've given you a whole bunch of conditions as to why. And then you guys make up there. You have other things too, right? The front yards and the fence and all that stuff. But on the grading side, I still think there's more that can be done.
Okay.
How that changes the aesthetics or how that changes what it looks like is up to you guys.
Can I appeal a couple
Go
of
ahead.
those points? Okay, no, and I respect everything HRC is saying, trust me, and we've had good dialogue through this whole process. So I think our biggest, a couple of things. One is the stormwater that was mentioned, and I feel in the discussions that have been had, the ordinance is in place to prevent cuts and fills because that does, make more stormwater problems. The existing lot, the way it functions today, actually goes and drains all the way in the neighbor's yard. So not only are we not creating more of a problem, we're actually solving that problem by putting the leaching basin. So I think the fills that we're proposing, they have no effect on the neighboring property and the grading that's happening there. Speaking from the function of the pool deck too, and as Jamie mentioned, we kept coming back to this landscape area here and removing it. And again, I just have to appeal to the safety of a pool deck, and even if we bring it in, like he was saying here, and cutting it here, we still have a lot that's going like this, right? So the pool deck, there's no pool decks that aren't level, right? We can't slope the pool deck. We want to hold it up, and no matter where we cut it, there's going to be a drop off there. And I have kids, a lot of people have kids, a railing, anything like that, you're playing around the pool, it's not a safe condition. I wouldn't feel comfortable as a professional designing it that way, and I would not recommend that to my clients. So again, that's why the biggest pushback was there. And lining up, we talked about this walkway here, you were out there, it seems like, where the existing kind of walls there, that's lining up directly with the porch. So that's not an aesthetics argument, that's more of a functional, that's where the opening wants to be, and then what do you create in that empty space that's there? So everything done here was very intentional, safety in mind, and again, we put really our best foot forward on a lot that slopes 12 feet to make this work with the lot by stepping downstairs at the cabana, which is not a great condition. Everyone wants to step out their cabana and be at the pool, but we put those in there so we didn't have fills on this side. And that's the thing too, when we talk about adding more steps, removing steps, it's got to chase back somewhere. So then we're going to have more fills in excess of the ordinance over here, right? So it's really a balance, and everything was concentrated in this one area. And I just think we'll always be chasing it back. If we dip this area, then remove steps from this area, it's just, again, we'd be chasing it back. And I feel really confident that we did put our best foot forward here with a smaller pool, a smaller deck than what was wanted by the owner. I hope I can appeal to the safety concerns around the pool itself.
What is your timeline for installing this?
So we would like to begin construction this fall, digging the pool, getting cabana footing set, so that way we're ready and open for the spring of 2027.
Any more questions for this gentleman? Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that has comment on this? Okay.
I don't know, I might be unpopular here, but I trust our planners. I think they do a really good job. I think we're telling them the guidelines
You
to
mean
follow.
our engineer?
Our engineers,
Okay.
excuse me, and our planners.
You trust them too?
I am a strong proponent that you know what you have I got a hill in the back of my yard. You know what? I'm not gonna fill it. I can't fill it. I knew it when I bought the house. So, in my mind, my proposal would be that we table this, meeting twice with the engineers. You might have tried to change it, but you didn't. I would like to table it and see what else they can do to minimize the fill rate of 3 to 4. And I just feel like we're opening up Pandora's box and we're gonna keep getting these. So that's my proposal, is to table it.
Okay, so is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay,
Table it with further study on
Yes.
the engineers.
Yeah, work with the engineers to see what you can do to minimize the fill, just as Jamie suggested. Is that,
I just thought of another idea, but I'll share that with the applicant.
okay? You always have good ideas.
Trying. I'll say it out loud, I think, why could, if the concern is a fall hazard, why can't we step the landscaping bed down a foot or two, so that you only have, instead of a 3-foot drop off, you have a 12-inch drop off, and then, you know what I mean? Split, lower that and split the difference, which would resolve that, and then, does it need to be that wide? Yeah, so I think there's some opportunities to do that.
Okay.
I understand the aesthetics on the bottom corner, I understand where we're at, but if that's the case, I think we can come up with something.
That's my motion.
I've got a question for the city. Is that an option for us to table if the applicant wants a up or down decision on their application?
You can always table if you're seeking more information. If there's, just an outright refusal to meet with the engineering firm again, might be determined to be futile, but you can always table it. You're in control of your action, I guess is what I'm saying.
This might not come back as an appeal.
I gotta say, I've looked at a lot of applications over the years. This is like really close. I'm not sure I remember us denying something that was just this low, but it is what it is. Commissioner Hostler asked the question about, can we table something if you're interested in reviewing it? Are you guys interested in doing that?
It really affects the construction timeline for this year. So can I ask one more clarifying question as we're discussing this? Am I allowed to?
Sure.
Okay, no. You mentioned at the beginning that the city manager is allowed to approve cuts and fills up to 4 feet, which we are below. And I don't believe we ever shared this plan with him. So is that an option? I've been from this board before and I've had much more cuts and fills, not that precedents are had, but to your point, I think, has that been discussed or is that an opportunity for us to look at that more?
So what I'd suggest to you, just from a business point of view, is we're at a point now where we're beyond that, because city manager is now deferred to the city engineer. That's why I asked, is this a denial? And we're treating it now as a denial, if I'm hearing this. And so I think we're beyond that. I also think, looking at this, you guys are within a foot here. Or so. It seems like you ought to be able to get there. You could add a step coming off the house. I see your dilemma. I was in that backyard. You could drop the step, and you pick up 8 inches, which is going to reduce, if it's less than 2 feet, if it's 2 feet or less, you're good to go. So you're pretty much, that says 2 to 3 feet. So you're pretty much, if you dropped it a foot, all that light green goes away, and you may be able to, there's suggestion about adding some landscaping in. You can solve this problem. I would.
We could solve the problem. There's no solution we didn't study where we don't shrink the pool. Because to your point, if we add more
So I think if you don't table it, you may end up with a denial. And so I'm just trying to help you out here. So, it seems like with a couple of days, you guys could maybe come up with something. You think?
I hope so. I study this hours and hours on end, but if tabling's the way you wanna go, we'll look at it again.
Can I ask what tabling means?
That means you guys go back to the table for 30 days. That means you look at this and you try to mitigate this just a little bit more, and satisfy what the city engineer is looking for, and come to sort of some happy medium. I mean, there's a couple of solutions here, and they're not far away.
Well, it's just, I mean, the hardship of time, now we can't start our construction until, next year. We already started this process, so, we've hired the best professionals we can find. We're not landscape architects, we're not builders. We try to be fair, we're investing in our property. We like an outdoor, landscape for our children. It doesn't look like we're asking for a lot. I can see his opinion, but it's our yard. And so, I mean, we don't necessarily, we want it designed a certain way, and safety's a factor and other things. So, I mean, is there any way that you could consider what we've laid out in front of you?
Well, if we do, just so you understand what happens, is if there's a motion on the table, right now there's a motion to table this. I don't know what the sentiment of this body is here. I mean, I've heard one, maybe I've heard a couple opinions. If a motion gets made to deny it, then it's denied, and then you've got to come back, you've got to go back through the process and almost sort of start over. It's not like starting completely over, but you're starting over, whereas if you just table it, all the work that you've done to date, it's still live, and you can, if you look at it and say, let's put another step in here, and then maybe the city engineer feels better that maybe it's, maybe we get rid of the 4 feet and it's just 2 to 3 feet for most of it, and maybe that satisfies him.
So the grading, as I understand it, again, I'm not, an architect, but the grading was part of what we came here for. So is the grading, I mean, can it be that piece, grading approved or anything to?
Well, they run parallel, they really run in tandem. You've got to get, it's sort of the whole ball of works.
But I think, to your point that you said, if we table it for them, and you sit down with the engineers, and you reduce those fills to over 2 or 3, then they're within the ordinance, they don't have to come back in front of us, is that correct, or do they?
Well, I mean, city manager.
It could be a situation where there's no longer an appeal process. I would venture to guess that after this meeting, they would work it out, the appeal thing and the grading thing would be gone. But then, probably to the chair's point, that could have modified the ask for the pool and the landscaping, so maybe the planning commission would want to look at that.
Oh, okay.
And that's why it
All
would
right.
come back.
I didn't know,
Well,
so that, good point, good
but
point.
the rest of it, though, is, it's still a pool in a front yard. So there's,
Well, I was just thinking if you wanted to approve everything else, and then, but the problem with that is if there's a modification.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of an open-ended,
Right,
yeah.
right.
What happens if there's a vote?
Pardon me?
What happens if there's a motion to approve?
If there, and if there's a motion to approve and it passes, then it passes. So I don't know what the sentiment of the commission.
There's already a motion on the table.
I haven't heard from.
It hasn't been seconded.
What?
The motion
I
is
guess,
not- it is not that
is there any
I'm
discussion?
comfortable with it personally.
You
just
are.
To approve it.
I am too. That's two of us.
I come back to, we're going against somebody we hired to make recommendations for us.
Yeah.
And we have things in place, people buy houses knowing what they're buying, they hire architects that understand the written rules that we have for doing this. And this is not that. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody here, but this is what this is why we have rules and regulations and guidelines. And the engineers provided a solution, a suggested solution. Why would we go against someone we hired to make recommendations to us? I don't understand.
So is the,
Mr. Chair, can I just throw out a thought to that, that last statement?
Pardon me?
I just wanted to clarify the last statement, just so you understand. The engineer is not making a recommendation. The engineer made a decision, okay?
Wordsmithing.
Which, well, it's important because this is here on an appeal to you, okay? As just a standard practice, when there's something on an appeal, you need to use your discretion and evaluate according to the standards. You can't just say, we're gonna follow what the decision was of the engineer. Otherwise, it kind of renders the appeal somewhat moot. So I guess what I'm saying is, you do have the ability, this is an appeal, you have the ultimate decision to either override what the engineer had done.
so is the,
Please.
is the aspect on appeal just the grade? Okay.
Well, that's
so-
what's the appeal process, yeah.
So the appeal to this body is based on the grading decision by the engineer?
Yes.
Is the component of the application regarding the swimming pool in portion of the west side yard and then the pool fence and its dimensions, that's separate from the appeal? That's before us now?
That's not an appeal.
Right, and if we were to address that, would that necessarily affect the grading component?
I mean, you wouldn't have, I'm gonna say it this way, you would not have an appeal if they went further and further and did some of these other modifications, and they would just be here for front yard
Yeah,
and
but
all that.
hypothetically, right, if we table the grading aspect, right, table the appeal, can we still, and pick up what
And I
the city
think that
manager was
was-
saying, is that could we deal with some things to maybe avoid them possibly coming back?
Yes.
Can we deal with the swimming pool location and the pool fence location?
Good.
You can, I think that was touched on earlier, and the concern was, depending on what happens with the ultimate grading issue, it may alter the other decision on the other aspects of the pool proposal.
Can I ask the question, is there a possibility you could work with the applicants to reduce some of the grading issues, but keep the general design as is?
I don't think that anything we come up with is going to change where the cabana and the pool and the framing of the pool goes.
Okay.
And the fence is not our issue anyways, so I think it's all in the landscaping area and that pool deck width, so that it's not really changing
So you could have a.
those two items, the two planning items, other than the.
So is your motion directed just to the appeal, or is it directed to the entire application?
Just to the appeal.
Okay, so
The
how can we
cuts and
bifurcate?
fills.
So I think that's actually that's a good suggestion. So, if we can conclude, which it seemed like we couldn't conclude, but maybe we can, that we can approve the entire plan and that the grading can be resolved without impacting
You could
the
make
plan.
you could say that the plan could be approved on the condition that the applicants modify the area of grading concern, and it sounds like they could still keep their design.
I would suggest it just, be approve the plan conditioned upon, ultimate approval of the grading. I
By the
wouldn't-
engineer, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily limit
Well,
it.
and the city manager, if it's under 3 feet, I mean, there's tiers in there in terms of what you need to do. So, it's 4, but there's between 3 and 4, there's another provision in there, I
Yeah,
think.
it's
That's just a policy.
It's just
What?
a policy.
That's just a policy, that the building official can go to 3 and then Dave.
Okay.
can go to 4.
So if we can get this to 3, we can approve this plan. I think this plan can get approved. I mean,
Well, I think you can approve the plan based upon.
we can,
our
and you guys
engineer's,
can, okay.
Condition that the engineer
So,
is satisfied.
let's do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll make a
so-
motion
Well,
then.
no, hold on.
Okay.
She's got a
Mr.
pending
Mr.
motion.
Chair.
So do you want
Okay.
to modify
Mr.
your
Chair.
motion? or how-
I don't know if did you make a motion?
There was no second.
Oh, you
Mr.
did?
Chair.
Okay,
So,
okay,
Just-
go ahead.
There's a motion on the floor.
I guess I didn't remember she made a
addressing-
motion.
Which addresses the
The appeal.
appeal only.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would suggest moving on that one first, and if that motion passes, then address the ultimate plan and make that conditioned upon ultimate resolution of the grading issue.
Okay.
But then if it's tabled, they still have to come back on the grading, wouldn't they?
No.
Well,
Maybe
no,
not, because
not?
they
because.
may be able to resolve it
So
administratively.
if it's under 3 feet, really, if it's under 4 feet, but, so there's a couple tiers there. So they can administratively approve this
Even though
if
it's
it's,
tabled.
yeah. So if the grade is under, if the change is under 4 feet, they can administratively do that. So if we approve the plan, it seems like they're pretty close on the grade here. That, yeah, we can approve, you can make your motion, and you, well, you made a motion to table.
table, I can expand upon that, say to table it based on the appeal of the cuts and fills,
The grading.
the grading piece.
Okay,
Second.
Do we table, though, if we're gonna approve it? That doesn't seem to
Well-
make
No, no,
sense.
no.
It's silly.
so what she's saying is, so, she wants to table, so there's 2 issues. One is the grading, and separately, it's the plan. And the plan constitutes the pool and the fencing and the vegetation. So she's saying, we're going to table the grading, so that they can come back and do that, but we're going to approve the plan. And if it turns out that, I guess it almost, Mark, thinking about this, if we table this, doesn't it really have to come back in front of us?
If you table it, technically it would come back, but, you know, it would be an agenda item. You'd open the agenda item and dismiss it.
What if we, so what if we, I don't know, you're gonna say the same thing I am.
Well, it's your motion. sir.
That's why I was
My
suggesting,
understanding is that we're here on an appeal of the grading.
right,
And the appeal has been tabled, and that tabling allows consideration between the applicant and its consultant and the city, and they may work it out, and if they work it out, they don't have to, they resolve the appeal. So that component can be
And that's
settled.
my question,
So
can that happen?
If
It
if
could
they
be
work it out,
dismissed.
and the
Yeah,
city
it
manager
would be
agrees to it,
dismissed.
and there's administrative resolution, that component is done. The other reason we're here is the other part of the project, being the swimming pool and the west side yard and the fence, and the landscaping and whatnot, and we can deal with that separately,
Mhm.
right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, okay, so we're going to, you've got a motion to table this, there's a second,
Table the grading part of it.
yeah, the grading.
There's not been a vote. And there's not been,
No,
And
we
there-
can vote on that.
there's no
So,
vote.
all in favor of that, say aye.
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 So, Madam Clerk, you understand what that?
I do.
So the grading appeal has been tabled, we agree. Now, the second, there's gotta be another motion.
But we're, I'm confused, and maybe Mark, you can help me. So we're going to approve the fence?
Well, we haven't moved for that yet.
Oh, we haven't moved to that yet.
I would make a motion that we approve the fence and the pool in the front yard along Woodward Avenue.
Well, it's a side yard.
It's a front yard.
Well,
It's a front
Two
yard.
front yards on this property.
Front and side yard pool, and the front and side yard pool fence.
So they can build one, it doesn't have to be this exact size, correct?
No, so what we're approving, then, we're approving this plan. So, we're approving the plan, but, the grading, so you're approving the plan conditioned on, resolution, pending resolution of the grading, and so that's gonna get resolved in one of two ways. Right now, it's tabled, and if they solve it, then it doesn't, you know, it just goes away.
Right.
And if they don't solve it, then they can't move forward with their plan. But I'm confident they're gonna figure it out. So we just passed the motion to table the grading. So if we're happy with the plan, then if they work it out, they can move forward because administratively, they can approve the grading.
But the approval of the plan.
Is conditioned
Is
on-
conditioned on the resolution of the grading.
Right.
appeal.
Yeah.
That,
What,
can-
do I think it is?
How can it
Well,
not?
I think,
Mr. Chair?
what could they, so I asked that question, you could add a step in here, frankly.
What I was gonna say is, I think by the phrase approving the plan, what you're approving is, the development in the front yard and development in the side yard.
Yes.
That's gonna be what you're approving
Yes.
tonight. If the plan changes, you're still gonna have the ability to develop part in the front yard, part in the side yard, and any amendment to the plan would just be administrative, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Tom,
Yeah.
if you add one step in here, most of this goes away. So, I mean, I get your point. Okay, so,
Yeah,
do,
actually, Mr. Chair, it was just a good point. If you're going to be doing something similar to that, include that it be, within what the proposed plan shows, no further extension.
So for example, if they change things with the grading and the pool shifts slightly or comes in, they wouldn't have to come back, so, but if it went out further,
The motion is
Then
to
they would.
approve the pool as it's drawn and the
established-
fence as it's drawn on this plan.
We've established.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, so you've got that motion on the table, is there a second?
and the pool
Okay.
location
Okay,
changed,
we
but
have-
wasn't
Well,
replacing.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that was my concern was if the grading is resolved in a different way and the pool isn't exactly in the same spot, but it's close, then that seems like it was okay, as long as it wasn't further into the front yard.
I think the motion on the table is to approve the pool location exactly as it appears and the fencing exactly as it appears on
Okay,
this plan.
so-
The rest of it, if you're gonna solve the grading problem another way, without moving the pool, without changing the fencing.
So if the grading changes the location of the pool in any way, they have to come back.
Yes.
So there's a motion, and do I hear a second? And it's conditioned on the resolution of the grading.
And the resolution of the grading is essentially delegated to the city manager because it's within his purview.
Exactly. Yep.
Could be.
And if it alters the location of the pool in any way, it needs to come back.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Guys, put your negotiating hats on, and
Good job.
you're close.
This is a good process. People, I would approve it. We're gonna put this, good process.
Yeah, I am. No, hey, I want that.
Yeah, no, I know.
They don't want to.
It is so hard.
I'll blame the
All right. I'm
Okay.
gonna dive right into.
Okay, well, let me introduce this. Planning Commission will consider the request of the property owner at 104 Brady Lane for approval to install a pool in the side yard.
Yes, and
Okay.
before I do this, I'm going to just note for you all that I will introduce this one, but then I have to adjourn myself from this meeting, so Eric will take over after that. So that you're not confused why I'm waiting. All right, so we have a request here for a pool located in the side yard. And so you can see here with Brady Lane, this sort of curve, as you can see back here, a real curvy road as it goes through. We've got the front yard, and the location of the home on the lot is rather unique in that it's sort of off to the side. But that means that most of it is actually located sort of in its side yard. So the applicant is proposing a pool here. There is an existing side yard fence. And so this is, so the pool doesn't need an extra fence because it's already got one. It's just for the presence of the pool in the side yard. So we have the screening for that, some new screening over here. So I'll leave it back on that one. But yeah, it's fairly straightforward on this one.
But
Again,
it's
the
actually
fencing is
behind the
existing.
house, it's right behind the house.
Correct.
Yes, yeah. And this is a fairly large parcel. It's on like 5 acres.
What's that?
Just under 4.
Huh?
Just under 4, yeah.
Under 4, isn't it? Yeah, it's a large, yeah. I've been to this house. No, no.
We got lucky, Sarah McClure wanted to sell it, so.
You sure did. It's a beautiful home. This is Sarah's house. I'm sorry?
Sarah's flowers every year since I bought it. My 4 kids underage, they just love it. So.
Oh, that's cute. Okay.
Any questions for me?
Is that all you got?
That's all I got. There was one slide here. Turn that over.
So for this property, we don't have any issues related to engineering. Just wanted to point out what they will be doing for stormwater improvements. So similar to most of the properties, they are proposing a leaching basin or a dry well towards the rear of the lot, which will capture the additional runoff from the proposed improvements in the backyard. HRC does feel this is sufficient for what they are proposing.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions for the planner or the engineer? Joe, I have one question, because I just want to understand, so the grades on all this, so the property's sloping, but we're all okay with the grades?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For me or for?
Well, I guess both of you guys.
Yes.
Okay.
Real simple.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you like to say anything?
You know, we're really excited. It overlooks the kitchen sink, so Mom can watch her ducklings. You know, I think the bottom corner of that is where the grade kind of drops, but I think that's, we're doing a retaining, and I don't think we come in jeopardy or close to that 3 to foot questionable range, 2 foot. And this came after a good amount of compromising, maybe a year
any questions for the applicant? Okay.
I'd like to
Any
make a motion.
discussion or a motion, or,
Motion to approve?
Yes,
okay?
yeah.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have a question. Did they leave the night for you?
They did.
You got-
How about the maps? How about the maps?
No, I asked for the maps, they wouldn't, my kid wanted the night, so I don't know if it was the same one, it looked a little different, though. We have a night.
So, as a personal, my boys used to watch their dogs when they went in, and they said that only a real man has a night in their house. Like, they thought that was the coolest thing in the world. That's a beautiful house, beautiful.
Okay.
Have you been in it?
Next topic. The Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on the proposed zoning ordinance amendments, inclusive of comments from the July Planning Commission meeting. And I guess just to sort of summarize where we're at, because we've got some people here today that weren't here at the last meeting. So where we stand is in February, city came forward with a moratorium regarding the commercial zoning. And then subsequently, we broadened the scope of that review to include properties other than just commercial property, to include other zoning districts. And as a part of that then, the planner was tasked with reviewing the ordinance generally, I guess, those specific districts, but it expanded beyond just the commercial section. And so we've come up with some proposed zoning ordinances, some amendments to the zoning ordinance. And at our last meeting, at the July meeting, we reviewed half of those. We didn't review the second half of them. And there were comments and suggestions made during the July meeting. And some commissioners provided comment, and we have those comments. So we have a couple of different things that are outstanding. One is to complete the review of the proposed amendments that we've not yet reviewed. And then the second part is to review the comments. And so what I'd like to do is pick up where we left off and complete the review of the proposed amendments, since part of it we haven't yet reviewed. And then we can dovetail back into the comments.
Okay.
So,
And I apologize, I have about 20 minutes before I need to, 20 to 30 minutes, if we can. So what we might do, if you want to consider this, is do what you suggested, is going through the second half. And then maybe we collect all of the comments and then present you with an updated draft for your consideration.
okay.
We can touch on some of the comments we included so that you could see what we heard from those who were able to share with us. And I don't think anything was there was nothing that we found to be at odds. They were pretty consistent. I think all of the comments that we received were in line with each other. So I think we have, unless you had anything that you had questions about or you wanted to probe more, like what did someone mean when they asked this question, we can talk about that. But I think with the comments that we got, I think we could pull together a better revision based on that feedback.
I think that's a good work.
Okay.
So, I think we left off where we
With the
started.
parking?
Yeah, we started off, yeah.
Off-street parking,
It was
wasn't
the
it?
parking.
Yeah.
It was the
Right.
parking.
Okay.
Right.
So, do you want to provide us with an overview of that, or?
Yes.
Let's do that.
So again, the direction from City Commission was when we presented the findings from the land use study, there were multiple options, strategies that the city could choose to do or choose to do none of those things. And so the idea was, are there quick and easier amendments that we can make that might be helpful for property owners in the commercial and office district areas, zoning districts? Again, primarily focusing on the Long Lake and Woodward City Center area, but wherever the commercial O1 and O2 office zoning districts exist, these would apply there as well. So there were only a few minor things that we suggested with the parking, but the major one would be to consider usable floor area as the standard for the parking measurement. That doesn't change the number of spaces per square foot. We actually think that's a good place to go to, but we felt an easier refined amendment at this point could just be looking at usable floor area instead of gross floor area. Where that is really beneficial, I think, is for like your smaller restaurants and your areas where we would just be looking at the area where the customers are going. That may help reduce the number of parking spaces that are required without changing all of the numbers. Now, that can be done. This was just considered to be a fairly easy way of going ahead and modifying those parking standards. We included a table, we didn't re-include it this time, of some of the other communities in the area and their parking standards. And we've noted that most of them had not been updated in quite a number of years. That is something that many communities are choosing to do with an eye to require less parking on site. We don't need to have so much paved areas. I think that's consistent with what the city looks for here as well. Are there ways that we can reduce the amount of hardscape? And so can we require some less parking? So that's the idea of where that came from, and then we can talk about that.
Comments or?
So when you talk about, you know, the floor area, it's the calculation of the required spaces to the building and the size of the building. Is that what we're generally?
Right, we're talking about the inside areas, and we actually have a definition.
Rentable square feet?
Pardon me?
Rentable square feet?
We have a definition in the code already for usable floor area. So it's using an existing definition that you have and just applying that to parking instead of gross floor area.
Okay, because I mean, one of the things, and I didn't go back and look at all the definitions, but I noted that, and maybe this is semantics, but the reference to parking space and a parking area, I mean, I think there's got to be a singular, clear definition of a space being where a vehicle's going to be, and then, you know, the floor area, the building calculations from which the spaces are determined. Kind of dumb it down, because it's, I don't know, I was getting confused and was wondering whether there's a distinction between a parking area and a parking space. I was getting a little lost.
If I could, I'm going to give a bit of historical perspective. So I don't know how many people have ever figured out parking for buildings. I have. I've done it a lot. And the ordinance that we have today is a product of about a year's worth of work that was done in 2010. And so one of the provisions in the master plan was that we should review parking location and the amount of parking that we have in the area within the city. And when we did the master plan, one of the goals was to minimize parking, for sure. You don't want open parking areas. And we have some. And we had them back in 2010. One of them that people have noticed is the area behind, I call it the Dykema building, because they were my attorneys for years and I'd go there. But there's a parking area back there, half of that parking lot, maybe a third of it, depending on the year, doesn't get used a whole lot. And we recognized that when the master plan was done. And there was specific provision in the master plan. And it said, if we reduce parking, one of the things we should do is not create more building space, but we should, if we downsize it, the space should be used for natural areas, additional landscaping, and stormwater facilities. So when we analyzed it, and we did it, the Planning Commission did it as a group, and we had a subcommittee. And the subcommittee consisted of 2 city planners from LSL, and they were really capable guys. And it was a city manager who was a planner. It was a city attorney, Bill Hampton. It was a well-regarded landscape architect, Michael Duell, and I sat on that. And so we worked on this for the better part of a year. And one of the things that we changed was, we did change some of the parking requirements, but one of the items we changed was we did use net usable space. And the city found over the years that using net usable space in this city was the wrong way to go. It was determined to be an onerous exercise, because if you do it, there's lots of flexibility. You can change hallways, you can do, there's just all sorts of different ways you can modify how much space you have. And if you take a building, and I'm just gonna go back 12 months, we just had an office building in front of us last year, and we worked on it for several months. And when we determined the amount of parking, it was based on the gross square footage. If you want to plan out a building and the necessary parking for a building, and then the building parking is going to be determined based on the design of the floor plan. Normally, we don't even get floor plans for buildings. You know, they're boxes, and we don't know what those floor plans look like. So if you hinge in an approval based on net usable square footage, you don't have a floor plan. What this provides for is now you're going to use 80%. So I'm going to give you an example. I pulled out, this was the example, this was the building we just approved last year. So this building was roughly 7,800 square feet. And they actually showed us the floor plan. And on this floor plan, there's like 31 people they're showing on just this one floor. Well, if you use our calculation right now, this requires 31 places, and there were 31 people. So if you start using net usable area, you would have reduced this thing down by 20%, because if they didn't have a floor plan, now you're coming up with arbitrary numbers. You're just using this. Right, so you're going to reduce it. The inverse of 80 is 20, right? So you're going to reduce it by 20. So you would have ended up with 24 spaces when I've got a floor plan that shows I've got 31 people moving here. So, you know, this concept of moving from gross square footage, so that was premised on a lot of different things. It was premised on what neighboring communities are doing. And communities move, but more, if you look at the examples that we have in our table right now, Most of those are gross square footage.
But
And,
most of them are also,
well,
and they're mostly similar. Like Bloomfield Township and Bloomfield Hills are pretty similar. Township, there are a couple where their standard is a little bit, would require a little bit less parking. But I would also note that they have not done a significant update to their parking table in quite a number of years.
so with all due respect, I read through this, and so I guess I want to get back to the first sentence in here is, generally, the parking standards in Bloomfield Hills may be a bit high, but not radically so, given the current standards. And so what I'd suggest to everyone is, we've never taken a position where we're going to be the cutting-edge community in terms of parking. I mean, I just displayed an example. If we applied this rule to the building we approved last year, we would be shy 7 parking places for the number of people that they show in this plan. So, and then I look at this, which says we're not radically different from where everyone else is. And then when you consider the exercise that you need to go through in computing net usable space, and you can do it, and it depends. So communities that typically do this, you may have more mixed use. You've got different uses in a building. So think Troy. You know, you go over to Big Beaver in Coolidge, and you've got restaurants inside office buildings. We have a little bit of mixed use. We don't have a lot of mixed use, and the difficulty that you end up with in the real world of going through and computing this, when we can just look at our example from last year, applying it here would be impractical. If you looked at the building across the street, the JFK building, that was a big box. There were no floor plans in there. So you just can't figure it out. Now, if we're Troy, and actually Troy, I mean, Bloomfield Township, they're using gross. This city used net usable space for years. And the planners, and then the planning commission decided this isn't working for our city. And now I see us proposing to go back. So I can tell you, doing this on an operational level, just in my own business, that going through this kind of plan, I don't see how this benefits the city. And that's just my personal view. But the city's view, when we looked at this, when we spent a year, and there's a memo. Actually, this is all well documented.
I was trying to find it quickly while you were speaking, and I don't have it handy.
Here, I have
would
it.
note that was 16 years ago.
It was.
That things are a little bit different. I would also note that Bloomfield Township, if we're just talking about office, their standard is 1 to 275 square feet. Bloomfield Hills is 1 to 200. So their standard is already a little bit higher, lower.
So this is where I would go to, Joe.
If I could, just
Sure.
real quick. I would, in the interest of advancing what the city commission asked was about, are there some minor changes that we can make, or quick and easier changes that we can make going forward to help property owners, particularly with respect to just the flexibility of allowing the property owners to be able to fill the spaces as the demand is generated. this seemed like a fairly straightforward approach, actually. To your point, sometimes property owners don't know, they have an empty floor plate, and they say, okay, well, it's 80% of that, we're gonna take out the restrooms, the closets, the storage, whatever, kitchen area. That's also in recognition of, we don't always see 100% full buildings with 100% full tenant spaces 100% of the time. So just like we don't design shopping centers anymore for the day after Thanksgiving, there's a recognition that now office buildings may not need as much parking as they maybe did 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. So I think that's the background of this. We've certainly worked on many ordinances for parking specifically, where communities are saying, we don't think we need as much parking as what our ordinances call for.
So this is,
we would say the same thing.
so this is what I would suggest, Jill. Doing this regularly and having done it for many years is the city, and I just say this to the commission, the city reviewed this. The city used net usable square footage for 20 years. The city experienced great difficulty applying that principle. We went to the gross method because that's the method that's used predominantly. And there are nuances, because if you go to Southfield, you know, there's a lot of communities, but I did a quick check, and what I found was comparing communities, and I forgot my analysis, comparing similar communities, it's sort of the 70-30 rule, are using gross to net. We were there for 20 years, but wait a second. So if there's a question, and I don't dispute the fact that there is, in some cases with office space, there is less demand now because of the way office space is used. But I would also offer, and I talked with my architect who actually does a bunch of commercial buildings, and what they said was, and I see it in my own office because we have medical and just regular office space, and the medical actually has kicked up because people will know today there's more out-service areas. And so what's happened is he gave me several examples where they took professional office space, which are the numbers we're talking about, 1 to 200 or so, and then they use them, and it's not a medical use. It's for PT therapy and that kind of thing. They don't have enough parking. So this is what I would suggest. If there's certain numbers that need attention, I wouldn't touch medical to go ahead. I mean, but this is carte blanche across the board. And I'll stop talking. But if you're going to do something, then pick a couple of categories where there's issues and deal with the issues. But don't. I consider this a radical change. Taking something we did for 20 years, figured didn't work, we studied it for a year. I mean, we actually changed the width of parking places. I mean, we looked at this in so much detail. To go back to where we were, I guess I don't understand why we would do that. So, and I think this commission should understand what we did back in 2009, in 2010, and actually into 2011 related to all this. And the push was, if there was a reduction in parking, it ought to go to green space, because the way this is written, people will now build bigger buildings. And I don't know that the city is encouraging. I can tell you being a resident here, I'm not interested in building bigger buildings. Our master plan does not support that. Our master plan says if we create more usable area, it should go to open space, not bigger buildings. So I just wanted to provide that background to the planning commission. So I'll open it up to the rest of the discussion here. But no one was here back in 2010, so I think everyone deserved to know that.
I'm sorry, run to our next meeting. So what unless you all have a different idea about the parking, it's sounding like we would just not even touch the parking section, and so we can come back with the next draft, just focused on the uses and the definitions that we have so far.
I think these people all need to discuss this.
I would let you all do that, but that's what I'm hearing right now is and I see some heads nodding, so, that's fine. It doesn't mean that we can't talk about it, but maybe to your point, we need a little bit more study, we need a little bit more focus on the specific areas. And I think, really, it was probably the restaurant, I think the office too. To your point, if gross floor area is the way that the city prefers to see it, I don't personally have a problem looking at usable versus gross. And our architects are fully capable today, with their computer software to be able to tell us exactly what's what. So that really isn't a concern of mine. But, I do think that when you change back from net to gross and kept the standards the same, that you actually.
We didn't, we did,
I'll
actually,
go back and look.
yeah,
I
we
know
changed
there
them.
was a lot of changes that you did do that.
We did change them. So, but we need to discuss this as a group. So I guess I'm gonna start at the end of the table. Randy?
Well, you're persuasive about using gross, if we've been through that. Certainly the leverage is more on the individual uses and what the requirements are for each use. That it seems like that's where we ought to focus our time if we're gonna look at it.
I need to spend a lot more time looking at it before I have an opinion. I don't have any more time tonight.
All right.
I'm expiring.
I pass.
Okay.
No, I thought your presentation was very helpful. I mean, I'd probably default to gross with some ability to, case by case, use, modify it, because, I agree. I mean, you don't wanna motivate bigger buildings. And, part of our, I think the purpose of doing this, city center analysis was to try to identify the modern uses that businesses and individuals are making of the buildings, recognizing, working at home and the modern approach to the city center. And so somehow, someway, we've got to come up with some flexible ordinances that don't just rehash the same thing we've done the last 20 years.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I could just, it's 7:05, and I believe this was scheduled for a public hearing. Were you gonna open the public hearing on this, or what?
Well, we could do that. I think a lot of this is premise. Usually we've never, in 17 years, never approached this kind of amendment process in this way. Normally what's happened is we've had
Mr. Chair, I
amendments.
was just asking the question.
Well, I'm not sure we can open this.
Yes, you can, but
Okay.
I was just asking the question. Okay.
We can have a public hearing, but I think what we want to do as a commission, we need to have a public hearing when we've got an ordinance to review. We're reviewing, and I guess you've sat on this thing for a long time. Right now, we're having we've called this a public hearing, and we can do that.
I think you have someone in the audience that might want to speak. I think it's maybe. That's why.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I've got a hard stop, I got it.
I think we need to, this has been long, I think we need to, do we have to do the public hearing, Mark?
It was on the agenda, that's the only reason I
Yeah.
brought it up.
No, I think we just need to, let's readdress this, I think.
Yeah, well, let me just
He wants to
Yeah.
speak.
Okay.
Just close it.
If this gentleman wants to speak, though,
It sounds like the rest of the commissioners don't care, so I'll just reach out to Mark, so it's kind of.
Well, you're with the bank, right? You're the owner of the bank property?
Yeah, I made my comments last week, but it's all right.
Well, you're here, why don't you've got an audience, why don't you?
It sounds like you guys really don't care, and it sounds like,
Care about what? You're being ambiguous.
having decency of me spending 4 hours of my time to speak to you guys, but I'll follow up on that one.
Sir, would like to hear what you have to say. Please.
Well, it sounds like you guys as a group haven't really discussed what I talked about at our last meeting. I have the same concerns as my letter. I don't know if you have any questions of things you talked about after I left. I could read my letter again, but.
Let me offer this to you. Your comments are in our minutes, and I think if you look at our minutes, I can recite to you what's in them if you haven't read them. Commissioner Hostler thanked you for your input in what you said, in that we were going to listen to you. The mayor acknowledged that you took the time to come and speak to us, and we listened to what you had to say. And ultimately, Commissioner Hostler, he just said, you know, we've got to focus on our new center area, on our city center area, and try to resolve some of any issues that are out there to create a better business climate or more user-friendly environment. But right now, we're still, you can see, we're just sort of gelling things together. I mean, the planners have made some proposals, and this commission needs to vet those proposals and consider, well, what's going to work best for the city. I think everyone's sensitive. Everyone listened and appreciated your comments. You should know that.
Do you have a suggestion of what you would like to do with your building? You don't have to say it now, but I would say the city commission, at least, we are willing to listen, or David, the city manager, and Amy, they'll listen to any proposal brought in front of us. We don't, please don't feel, that's the reason we did this moratorium, is it was for the first time, and Will, I echo everything that you just said. You know, we want to modernize the city, we want to bring services in that the residents want. We don't want to just do the status quo. So it's a little bit different than what you said, Walt, about wanting to be trailblazers. We really want, so if you have a suggestion, we don't know if you don't bring it to us. Like, we don't know that you're having a hard time renting that because of parking or something like that. We would love to work with you.
I appreciate your question, but if I had a proposal, myself or my family would have brought it to you guys a while back. I had proposals to do Pilates studios, I was ignored, and the deals fell apart. I had proposals to do dental offices, I was ignored, or the zoning wasn't there, the deals fell apart. I've had restaurant users that want to be there. The current zoning based on parking doesn't allow that. I've explained to you guys, as a landlord, there isn't a current proposal on the table for me to say this is what I want to do. I want the variety of options that I wrote in my letter to have the openness
to continue to market the property and find a tenant in a building that has remained vacant in the prime area of your city for almost 7 years. There should be no reason why that the ordinance shouldn't allow a drive-through for our bank building when there was a bank there for 50 years. It's not a nuisance. I'm not asking you to allow a restaurant there. I'm asking you to reincorporate the same drive-through laws that were there for 50 years. I'm not asking you to allow Starbucks to go there and stack into Long Lake Woodward and cause a traffic study. You guys are talking about net square footage or gross square footage. There's already a parking issue at some of those properties there that is the reason that I'm here. Clearly, the net square footage is going to give us an advantage to leasing the building with a parking easement with the building that we own next door. Clearly, off-site parking for a restaurant isn't going to cause any traffic issues if I were to do a full-service restaurant there and agree with any of my neighbors next door, whether it's within 300 feet or 1,000 feet. I've done parking easements in cities that are half a mile down the street. It's really just, what are you guys going to do that is the benefit to your city? I get it. It's not what's just best for my own self, but there's plenty of different solutions in regards to being creativity. Giffords and Webster probably has the exact same context I've used for getting approvals within cannabis projects or gas stations or car washes to do traffic studies. You can do traffic studies on particular uses if we're going around that route. And quite frankly, with me being in the retail business as a developer and broker, certain restaurants, like if it's a Little Caesars with a pickup window or, maybe it's a bad example, but a tobacco store with a pickup window, are capable of being used for a drive-through based on the current staffing situation of that property. There's ghost restaurants now that people just place an order and it's not really a true drive-through lane, such as Chipotle right now. So there's plenty of different variety of what could be done at the property. I've summarized it in my comments. I've summarized it, in my letter. I don't really know what else, I'm missing. I don't know if Mark would like me to have my attorney reach out. I don't know if you want my civil engineer to reach out. I haven't spent the money working with them because so far for 7 years it's been a waste of time. And I've already invested $500,000 paying a mortgage that doesn't make sense anymore. One of you guys last month said, "Oh, why don't you just tear down the building?" Like, that makes no economic sense. We could maybe tear down the building if we combine the store next door and build a gas station there, but I don't even think that's economically making sense. But I'm just, spitballing different things. And I asked the question, and Eric, who's been a friend that I've worked with in this city and other cities in the past, I don't know if the square footage you proposed and the comments I read before walking in here today, there was something like up to 4,000 square feet. Is my building going to be defined as the first floor, whether it's net or gross square footage, or is it going to be defined as the basement? Because I've been selling real estate for 15 years. It's always defined to me as the first floor, and nobody could answer that question. So
those are all excellent points, and you're clearly a smart guy, and you've got a perspective on this industry. Have you submitted a PUD for a condo project or something, some actual development that the city can look at and consider and work with you? Because there are ways to put together a use that can be, spot zoning, PUD. There's all sorts of ways to take a building with some creativity, and Eric is a great resource to you, to work on something. I mean, spitballing ideas is all well and good, but the city can't focus on concepts unless you present something that is truly capable of being put together, so they can analyze traffic, so they can, maybe you do combine it with the property next door, and you come up with some blended project that you submit it to the city, and they can eyeball it, and on a special use analysis. If you haven't done that yet, I urge you to pursue that, because there's always a way to put land to use despite zoning, despite restrictions that are otherwise, you know, appear to be unworkable, the right project can, you know, be potentially approved.
I understand what you're saying, Will, but I just can't, for me to just go spend the money with the attorney and engineer when I don't actually have a specific tenant in sight.
I get it, but understand, I mean, so,
And why,
so the city is
I don't wanna
equally.
interrupt you, but we have spent money previously. I understand because your planning department is outsourced, so you have to pay Gibson Webster to be here tonight or to go meet with prospective tenants and landlords. We've spent money where it's like, you gotta put up your $2,000, you gotta put up your $10,000 to meet with them. And we have those meetings and then they go nowhere. So that's the reason why those meetings have stopped. And you could go ask Eric or ask Amy. They'll tell you that I'm not making up anything.
Well, it's not like the city doesn't want to work with you. It doesn't want to see something accomplished at that site. I mean, just the opposite. So it just feels like there has to be some process by which we can work with you. And so don't think that the city's shutting the door on you. Far from it. It's just that apparently, so far, the city hasn't been submitted by you or your brother and your partner's project that that they can analyze and really work around.
But if it's just a concept, correct me if I'm wrong here, if it's just a concept, like, let's say you guys, I don't know, you want to put a specialty store there or something like that. It costs nothing to meet with those two people over there. I mean, they could come in and just say.
If I can comment, because in all fairness to this gentleman here, he has done this. He has brought things to Eric, and Eric, you need to speak up of what that means, because I don't know what the meetings, what's happening in the meetings, but I think what's happening in the meetings is that Eric's looking at the ordinances as they are, and just saying that's not gonna work, because these things don't comply with the ordinances. So I think what he's saying is, I've done that, and I'm interested in this process, because there may be some other ways we can, to your point, modify some of these ordinances and things of that nature to help him. So, you know, so we're not connecting here, is I think what's happening. And, you know, Eric, he can't really go outside the ordinances. He can't make recommendations or suggestions that push him outside of what our ordinances say. So that's the difficulty. I think, I appreciate the dialogue, and I think you can continue the dialogue, or we should continue the dialogue, but I hope the process maybe sort of vet some of these things out. I'm just trying to, hopefully you don't mind, but I'm trying to, this is what I understand your position to be.
Can I ask this, since everyone's talking about Eric? So have you looked at proposals?
We've met with Mr. Corbin multiple times throughout the years, and I think the challenge primarily is adhering to the ordinances and what could possibly be done with the properties along West Long Lake.
That's all C1, right?
C1, I believe.
Okay, so it's C1 zoning.
Yep, and it's just because it's an older established site that has a lack of parking, that it's essentially all non-conforming. And so what would be possible for the property owner to be able to make a reuse of those properties by staying within the confines of the ordinance, which again is a non-conformity, so it's not possible without variances. And so then of course the parking requirement is a huge component of that. And so that's where it gets really difficult to be able to balance what they're able to do in terms of the cost of bringing something before the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals, especially when there's feedback from the boards that, you know, we're here to adhere to our ordinances and that.
With that in mind, though, so sometimes I'm going to dovetail back just to this deal with the pool we had, you know. We were sort of close, and it was a matter of bringing people together. I mean, I just heard a couple of different things tossed around, a gas station or a tobacco store or that kind of thing. I mean, those ideas probably aren't going to be as promising as enlarging the store you have right now, and I'm just talking off the cuff, right? That would be maybe a more suitable solution. And you're gonna have probably a parking deficiency, but a lot of that hinges on what you want to do with the buildings, because right now, the PNC building has all that usable space downstairs, and you've got to park for it. So, you're taking a building that's got this unique use. I mean, there's a vault in it. I don't know if the vault is still there. I'm sure it is. Probably didn't go anywhere. And so you've got this building with this unique space. So, you know, just in terms of a footprint, in terms of the vacant land that you have there, is the vacant land worth more if you expand? And I don't have the solution here. I guess I'm trying to piggyback on what Commissioner Hostler says. I mean, we could sit around the table and probably come up with some ideas. But then you've got to have a tenant. You've got to have a tenant. And so 2 years ago, you know, there were proposals to rezone property without a user. And so the city, and not just our city, most cities are unwilling to start rezoning property. And in your case, you've got commercial zoning. So it's a matter of, and I'm not sure what you've seen, Eric, I'm sure we could have a couple of people that'd be willing to sit down with Eric even and say, well, you know, we're not gonna put a gas station there. That's not plausible today. And I don't know that we want a tobacco stand. But, you know, you got a wine store, and maybe there's a good, you know, solution that maybe the wine store gets expanded. But there is no parking, so it would almost require that you know, make a decision on the PNC building, because the parking is really tight there. And so you gotta put it on paper. We can all come up with ideas.
So, Walter, you're making good points, but, you know, it's just me reiterating myself. We have met with Eric, we have met with Amy, my uncles have met with other people at the city through the years. It hasn't gone anywhere because based on the zoning and what Eric just stated, a lot of the things are currently non-conforming. So, in regards to, I don't want a tobacco use, I don't want a gas station there. Obviously, a gas station would be great, but I understand those things are not really positive things for municipalities.
What would you like there?
Everything I've written in my letter to you, to give me the options, because those were all the meetings that we had with Amy and Dave and Eric and Jill and Ian on the whole team. So it's hard for me to say, oh, can you please allow this use here when that tenant isn't there anymore? It's hard for me when you're in the middle of a rezoning process for me to go just say, oh, I magically just found a tenant, when the tenants that we did have on the table were unfortunately not on the table anymore, because when I would go to Eric and spend the money meeting with him, nothing would happen. So why should I continue spending money with new proposals of tenants if I'm just running in circles? And one of the businessmen that were here owns dealerships. He would understand and say the same thing, because he thinks like a businessman. And I'm not saying that you guys don't, but as a developer, you're stating like, you gotta figure out what to do with the PNC Bank building. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to tell you, you should be incorporating these changes within your zoning ordinance to allow us to go fill the building. And I don't know if I'm the only building on that entire strip that has had issues over the years, but I do know my neighbors that are the more Morgoulises on the opposite side of the wine shop got a variance a few years ago to do a physical therapy office. And we proposed that to Eric and Ian whenever we met with them for the Pilates studio. And we said, they got some sort of variance. Is this considered retail? Your ordinance doesn't even state if fitness is allowed for retail.
Where were you proposing to put this? In the PNC Bank building?
Yes, and also you talk about the usability of the PNC Bank building. The wine shop has now been there since 2008 when my dad and uncles opened that store. The basement has been used to store inventory this entire time. If you look up public records of what size that building is, it's based on the first floor square footage. So that's the whole reason why in my letter I said, how are you basing my building if you're going to change this ordinance? Is it gonna be, oh, we're gonna allow dental or fitness uses up to 5,500 square feet, which covers my property? Because if you change it to 4,000 square feet or 2,000 square feet.
So let me propose
it does
this to
nothing
you.
me.
If, and I look at you, Eric, as you review this. So, you're talking about, there's different types of variances. What we often deal with, most often, is dimensional variances, but there's use variances. And so, you can have a use variance, and it would. You're not gonna put a gas station where the PNC built, okay? That's probably not gonna fly. But there are use variances, and maybe that type of solution will work in your circumstance. I don't know what you discussed with Eric, but those are plausible alternatives, and it's not then necessarily a parking computation, it's a use. And I've watched the city over the years. A good example is there's an office building on High Oak in Long Lake. And the use of that was changed to permit an office building. And it's RM use, but, so we can do that. And I encourage you to visit with Eric. So anyways, we've got more commissioners that want to do something more important, and we're going to bring our meeting to a conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you.